Okay, folks, we're going to get started. So, I know there's some folks still coming in, but we've got a lot of amazing speakers to get through tonight, so we're just going to get started. But, I mean, first of all, how cool is it to be back doing stuff in person?
This is very cool.
Thank you. Hey. Thank you very much all for taking the time to come down. If you don't know me, I'm Colin McDonald. I actually started running these events pre-COVID a number of years ago when someone in London asked me, they wanted to meet the Scottish Games community. Is there an event up in Scotland they can come to and meet everyone? And I said, no, it's ridiculous. We all meet up in San Francisco and all these super exotic places. And they said, that's a shame, because if there was, we could have put some money behind the bar. That was all I needed. So, started doing this a number of years ago, and great to be able to resume them. It's great getting sponsors to put money behind the bar. However, the real purpose of these events is to provide insightful and interesting talks, give companies outside Scotland or outside the games industry a chance to visit us and get to know us, and just between ourselves, let everyone get out and mingle with each other and get to know people in other companies and people that are doing other interesting things. To keep to our schedule, talks need to start promptly at past every hour. Once we have the next break, there's another bar, there's a garden bar out that way. It's really nice as well. So go out there, but make sure you're back for past, because we'll need to be kicking off promptly at 4:30, 5:30, 6:30, and so on. The talks are fairly short, but the point of this is not to have people go on for ages and ages, but to hear a little bit from them, and then you to grab them afterwards and get into the real conversation in the breaks between the talks. That's why there's so many talks. We've got a bunch of people that have travelled a long way to come here, and you need time to speak to them. So do seek out the speakers and just everyone else in the breaks. Do make sure you introduce yourself to anyone you don't already know. Just get chatting to whoever you're sitting next to or ordering a drink next to, whatever it is. For those watching online, I need to apologise. We were expecting to have a better quality feed from the laptop. I'm not sure how good quality the presentation slides are going to come out. If you're watching online, we'll try and improve that. If not, it might be better tomorrow when we're doing it again. Hopefully it's all visible. If you're online, there is also a Discord that you can log on to chat with other people that are also attending virtually. So in a browser, punch in discord.gamestalks.live, and that will redirect you to the right Discord server. That link should also scroll along the bottom of the feed tonight. At these events, we also always raise a little money for a good cause. So we've got a number of great prizes to raffle, with the proceeds going to Ukrainian Red Cross this evening to help those affected by the situation there. Up for grabs. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but let me tell you, we have a bunch of Steam game packs from a number of great publishers. So Armour Games have donated copies of Sunny, Don't Escape, 4 Days to Survive, Not Crawl, and Solus 128 that we'll be hearing a little bit more about shortly. Yogscast have donated codes that will give you access to all of their current and future games. So that's Cave Blazers, Landlord Super, Brunch Club, Drink Mordler, and the upcoming Trolley Problem and Golfy. Focus Entertainment, that we'll also be hearing from later on, have kindly donated copies of Aliens Fire Team, Hard Space Shipbreaker, Shady Parami, and SnowRunner. Humble Games have donated copies of Unpacking, Unsighted, Activale, and The Wild at Heart. No More Robots have donated Descenders, Let's Build a Zoo, and Not Tonight 2. Modern Wolf have donated Necronator, Astronauts, Cosmocrats, Rogue State Revolution, and Mecha Jammer. And also, we have copies of Game Maker Studio Enterprise license, courtesy of Opera. Merge Games are offering a physical copy of a signature edition game of your choice. Scottish Games Week are offering, Scottish Games Network are offering a VIP pass to Scottish Games Week that again we'll hear more about shortly. Zappity are offering a goodie bag, including a t-shirt, squeeze ball, pen, face mask, £50 Steam voucher, and an invitation to join the closed beta of their Unity collaboration storage platform. And pocket-sized hands have donated £50 Steam vouchers. All of those will be drawn at 9:25 tonight, just before our final speaker. But we also have one other special prize that's a one-off. We have a stunning Philips HDPA monitor with Amicable that we only have one of. So even tickets that don't win anything tonight will carry forward to the prize draw for the monitor on Thursday when we're in Glasgow. Tickets are £5 each. So for every £5 of a donation to the Just Giving page that we've set up, we'll allocate you one ticket. This applies both to everyone here in Edinburgh and everyone watching online. Make your donation by 9 o'clock tonight in order to enter tonight's raffle, because we need to collate all the names together. You can donate by going on your phone to ukraine.gamestalks.live. That's ukraine.gamestalks.live. The link will come up on the screen throughout tonight. When you make a donation, just make sure your name is visible when you make the donation, otherwise it comes up as anonymous and we don't know who to give a prize to. Or if anyone has some of that old-fashioned cash stuff that they're desperate to get rid of, please see Sean or Ruben that checked you in on the door, and they can sell you some tickets for money cash. I would like to thank our sponsors, without whom these events wouldn't be sustainable. So that is the Scottish Government's tech ecosystem, in-game, Outplay Entertainment, Hyperluminal Games, Pocket-Sized Hands, Sheridan's, Glitchers, Escape Technology, Rivet Games, and Speech Graphics. So please join me in thanking them for the drinks that I think most people have already ordered. Thank you very much. I would also like to thank some of the folk that are helping out. So we have got Ethan up there in the booth upstairs, engineering the audio, making everything work except for the bits that I broke. And Sean and Ruben, who are both game students at Abertay, for getting everyone safely checked in on the door and getting you your raffle tickets. I'd also like to thank the venue. They've been brilliant in helping us get set up today, and it's great to get back and spend some money in places like this that we couldn't come to for so long. As we bring on each of our speakers, please give them a very warm welcome, and please respect them and other attendees by not talking during the presentations. There's a garden bar out the back if you want to smoke or chat or whatever during some of the talks. So let's kick off. We start with someone who is not just a local developer, but a local games lecturer and a BAFTA Scotland Award winner. Please welcome Tom Methven of Amicable Animal. Tom.
Hi everyone, and thank you very much for, I think, what's my first in-person introduction, since most of those things have happened, which is terrifying. Yeah, today I want to talk, as kind of a small developer, about two things. Defining success and the importance of niche games. Two things that have come into my mind quite a lot over the last couple of years. So, I don't really need to do this introduction bit, thanks to Colin, but I'm now basically starting every single slide ever with this photo, because how often do you get a photo like this? And first of all, I was incredibly drunk when this photo happened. I wasn't expecting to win, and I'm just pleased I don't look drunk in the photo. But as I was introduced as, I'm the program leader of the games development program over at Edinburgh, and for about 4 or 5 years now, I've been whatever an official game developer means in my spare time as well. I make a whole bunch of stuff, which is best described as just weird, glowing nonsense, generally speaking. And this is sort of a evolution of the weird glowy nonsense, and as you can see, it is only getting glowier. But really what I'm interested in is kind of simple niche games, but modernised, with a really kind of polish and a sheen to it. And that's one of the reasons I'm going to talk about niche games today, because I think they're very important, and I don't think they get talked about enough at some of these sorts of events. So the thing that inspired me to do this talk first off was articles like this. Right? Articles written by people who stand up on stages like this, and I know the irony about what I'm going to say here, and will tell you how to be successful. Right? And the reason I want to talk about these is because they're bollocks. Every single one of these I've ever read is complete and utter bullshit, and we keep pretending like they're not, like they're important, right? And there's a couple of reasons why they're such bollocks. I mean, first of all, when you're designing a successful game for iOS and Android, you probably don't put Switch in the right? it wasn't the thing that I wanted. Which meant we always, from the very beginning, knew what the game was going to be and we targeted the market very carefully. And that has pros and cons. Because we were very specific about how we sold and made sure that people were right. And some of the other games here are very similar, but you might have made a lovely Methven, also called, is what is Methven Dungeon. And it's really interesting, really cool, but not everybody's going to like it. So Amicable is a really hardcore and precision platform, but it's really great if you like that sort of thing. Zero is a conversion of a board game that I often think I'm the only one who's played, but the developers from it made it so beautiful and so perfect. If that's what you want, you will love it. And this tends to be shown in your user. Niche games like this, if you sell them right, if you tell people what they're buying before you buy them, they will like you for it. And if you define success beforehand and you budget for what the game's going to be, you don't spend 5 years making what is going to be a small game, you can still make enough money to make it successful. I recouped with my publishers Armageddon Studios, right? So they're relatively happy with me. That's until this talk. But that was because I was very explicit from the outset. So I don't want 100 grand, because I know I'm not going to do but I want enough to do this I don't need to do. One thing I'll say here, that we, especially at the moment with how stuff that we're talking about, kind of games and good things, niche is not the same as this food game, right? Niche games should be made for people who want to play that type of game, but anyone wants to play that type of game. So I spent so much time in Solace adding features for neurodiversity, motor issues. It's built from the ground up to be colorblind. We translated it into all 29 Steam languages. And I'm really worried about saying this, including, I think, correct Arabic. I really hope so, if Rami. I'll talk to me later that it is right. But we did a lot of checking on it. So, for me, these sorts of games give really unique and interesting experiences because you don't need to focus with them. You can make a specific type of game for a specific type of person and make them really, really kind of emotional and connected and resonant with people. And I think they make the games ecosystem so much more interesting and more exciting by existing. So I really want more people to make them from a very selfish point of view. So, to wrap up, what am I doing now? Well, probably because the previous game was slightly too successful, I can say something even weirder, more glowy, more niche, where it's an arcade puzzle game with hints of control and kind of found objects. And at this current stage, I don't have any idea it's going to work, but I'm enjoying making it. So hopefully, at some point, I will find an audience of all this niche, and I will find somebody who will consider it a success. Thank you for speaking. Thank you for listening. Thank you to come and talk to me afterwards.
Awesome, thank you very much, Tom. Okay, one talk in, and although Tom was on time, I'm obviously running late, so we need to crack on. Our next speaker will be no stranger to many of you from his tireless work over the years running the Scottish Games Network. Please give a warm welcome to Brian Baglow.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Last time I was here was to see the wedding present playing Sea Monsters, which should tell you something about A, my musical taste, and B, nothing's being sent to them. I'm here tonight. I don't have any slides. I was trying to put something together. I've had testing negative for the last 3 days, and my head isn't just quite there yet. So before I start, I'm here to talk about something new, something that I've been doing over the course of lockdown. I would really like to call attention to what Colin has done here. In Scotland, we have a really thriving games community. We have an exceptional talent pipeline. We have 7 universities and 11 colleges producing games graduates, games students at HSCs and GMs. We also have some incredibly talented, technically skilled, and massively creative weirdos like Tom, who are doing astonishing work but they're not shouting about it as effectively as we might. I have ended up being, because I started a Yahoo group in 2004, that has kind of grown into whatever the Scottish Games Network currently is. I get called in to talk to a lot of people, and I get pulled into a lot of meetings, both Zoom and live. So I have had pretty much every type of coffee that the public sector is offered. Don't go into disclose. But as a result, I get to find out what the rest of the world thinks when they think about Scotland's games industry. And there are two things that everybody knows about Scotland's games industry. I mean everybody, right? From the First Minister down into the public sector, everyone. The two things they know is, one, Scotland's a brilliant games. And two, we can do it all together. Punch above hour. There we go, God. Okay, I should have done this after the 2 years opens. Now that is true, but that is informed by two massive global outliers. We've got the lovely people at Rockstar North, who are obviously doing the GTA franchise. We've got 4G Studios, who are doing obviously Minecraft console versions. But those games, GTA 5 just sailed through 165 million sales, Minecraft has sold through 200 million sales. They're global outliers. And they're so big that they are concealing the rest of the sector. Right? I've had conversations, not just with government and public sector and universities and all the various organisations, where I ask a really simple question, which is, name me 5 games companies in Scotland that aren't Rockstar or 4G. You can shout out, it's fine. 1, 2, 3. Well done, yes. Sorry, I'm listening to a Scottish accent. Yeah? Third one? Rocket. Perfect. Now, given that you are the games industry, that should come as a surprise. But I can tell you, hand on heart, this is the first crowd that has been able to do it over the last 2.5 years. Okay? We have an issue, right? There are not just guys out there like Tom who are working with vehicles. We've got Ant Workshop, we've got No Code, we've got Blazing Griffin, we've got Junkfish, we've got Pocket-Sized Hands, and Conglomerate Games and Yaldi. There are a huge number of people in there who are doing very clever things. And they're building niche games, they're building mainstream games, casual games, online games, social games, mobile games, you name it. But they're getting lost somehow in the mix. So over lockdown, I did 2 things. The first one was I got a little research grant to go out and map the games industry in Scotland for the very first time, right? It had never really been done before, so we didn't know who was out there, what it was they were doing. So I finished that last year. I will be open sourcing this big, ugly Google Sheets data set that I'm setting up. But does anyone know, right? Anyone in the audience know how many game studios there are in Scotland? Again, shout out. Hundreds. That's quite vague. Thousands. Units. Okay, so according to my research, there are, as of today, 478 registered games companies in Scotland. Now, before we all get incredibly excited and go and sort of start sneering in Finland, pretty much half of them don't exist outside companies' houses. They registered, but they don't have any other meaningful existence. Of the remaining, let's call it 125, about half of them are one-man bands, side hustles, part-time things. It's sort of the indie end of the market, which is great. Which leaves us with round about, let's say, another sort of 125 who are employers, who are growing, who are scaling. If you look at some of the work that's being done by Hyperlocal and Pocket-Sized Hands, it's incredible. And then we've got people flying under the radar, like the rocket board, and some really exciting and interesting companies. But again, nobody knows who they are. So I've done a couple of things. One is this data set that I built, that I went and did all the research for lockdown 1, which is my favorite one. I've now plugged that into Endgame up in Dundee, and what we're doing is we're doing two things. One is we're building an interactive map of Scotland's games industry, and I'm going to be looking for each and every single one of you to get involved and to tell me that you exist if you're not already on there. I'm also going to be using that to then create a list of all of the games coming out of Scotland on an annual basis, so that we can then feed this into government from public sector. And as part of this, we've also gone out and spoken to every single game studio in Scotland. Right? We sent out a survey at the end of last year. Out of 125 emails that I sent to founders, CEOs, and leaders of these game studios, we've got about 110 responses. The other 15 know that I know. And it's only because they're not in the office that they do. And I know that none of you are here tonight because their names are carved in blood on a wall in my head. So we've gone in and we've actually asked all of the game studios, what are the 3 biggest challenges that you face? Okay? And we've been doing strategy sprints with the team at India over the last week to really start pulling out the biggest problems that we as an ecosystem, we as a nation face when it comes to video games, and come up with solutions. And this is going to be fed into my next project for 2022, which is building games ecosystem cluster. Okay? What we're doing at the moment is great, but we don't have any kind of collective voice. We don't have any means of making the long-term strategic decisions that we need in order to be taken seriously as a sector and to be seen as a key digital part of Scotland's future. Right? Scotland has 4 key digital tech sectors: fintech, cybersecurity, data, and AI. And those 4 sectors are recognised at a governmental level as being of critical importance to our future as a nation. Games isn't on there. And on a global basis, the games industry is bigger than all of those other ones. Not put together, that would be insane. But, so, over the next several months, I am going to be building this cluster. I am going to be looking for help. It has to be driven by industry. We've got a problem in Scotland, which is the public sector tends to end up having to take the lead. Especially in games, we quite like sitting in the studio, we quite like looking at the numbers in front of us. We don't get out of much. But this has to change. And so, over the next several months, the games ecosystem cluster is something that I am going to be banging on and on and on about. And I'm looking for your help and your support in terms of recognising this has value to us as a sector, as an industry, as an ecosystem. And then 2, the real thing that I wanted to come along and talk to you about is the reason Colin was able to do this tonight in such a celebrated venue is the fact that he accessed some tech funding. Oh, was it 5? Check. Okay, 30 seconds. Okay, I accessed the same funding that Colin got to put on the next 3 nights. I am now building something that I pitched as Games Week Scotland, which is going to give Scotland a world-class week-long event celebrating games, the games industry, the games ecosystem on a global basis. It's going to be happening at the end of October this year. I'm going to be looking for speakers, sponsors, track creators, partners. I want to give this country something that takes all of the best elements, all of the wonderful people making games, publishing games, funding games, studying games, game studies, and give them a global showcase. So as soon as I get my head together and can actually build a website, that's going to be happening. It's going to be all over the Scottish Games Network over the next few days, right, starting from next week. But I am asking you tonight to please reach out. What would you like to see at a global games event in Scotland? Who should be speaking? Who should be participating? What should we be covering? If anyone comes up to me afterwards and says NFTs, I'll say yes, I've got an entire afternoon focused on them. Thank you very much. Good night.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Brian. I'm looking forward to Scottish Games Week, so stay tuned for more news from Brian on that. Our next company is not only a publisher, but they have their own wildly successful store as well. So please give a warm welcome from Green Man Gaming, their head of publishing, Mr. Ian McGregor.
Hello everyone. Anyone heard of Free Gaming? Hands up. I can't see. Anyone a customer of Free Gaming? Yeah. Thank you. Don't get a chance to say thank you to customers very often. So it's great to be able to do that. My name's Imre Jele. I'm English with a Scottish name. I'm about the Scottish as well. But it is lovely to be back in Scotland. In fact, my brother took me prisoner in Aberdeen. I've been in a whiskey cellar for the last 2 years. So I've had to go a bit analog on my phones. But it is really good to be here. I'm a publisher. I'm also a retailer, and I'm also a distributor. So there are a number of things that I could have talked to you about today. But 10 minutes is not a long time. If you do want to talk about distribution, publishing, retail, anything, contracts, how to get money, funding, whatever, grab me, and I'll do my best to give you a hand. But today, really, what I wanted to talk about very briefly were just 5 or 6 things that I think that you should expect from a publisher. So broadly, a publisher will help you with distribution, with funding, with development support, with communications, and then partnership and experience. They're broadly the key things that a publisher will help you with. So Greenman Gaming, our publishing division has been going for about 4 years. We're quite a young publisher, and we specialise in the indie games sector. And a lot has changed over the last couple of years with how to get a game to market, how to get a game seen, how to get a game picked up, how to grow your wish list. An awful lot has changed, particularly with COVID. And we spend an inordinate amount of time working with the developers that we sign to make sure that actually we really understand the game, we really understand the creative centre of the product. But more to the point, we understand the audience, because it's only through understanding that audience that we can have success and grow the game successfully. Some people, when they think about distribution, the easy answer with for anyone is just to throw your game up on Steam. How many games are on Steam at the moment? Anyone know? Yeah, a few. That's a bit vague. Loads. Absolutely loads. No, it's I think about 50,000 current games. There's quite a lot of stuff on there. And if you compare that to a supermarket, does anyone know how many brands are held within a reasonable large-sized supermarket? Guess. Sorry? 50,000. It's about 50,000. So one of the biggest challenges that we face is how do you take a game? How do you make it visible? And Steam's hugely important for us. Where actually, in essence, if I took your game and I hid it randomly in a large supermarket, how long would it take you to find it? And that's one of the key things that we try and help our developers with. So working with them very early to help build a story, to help grow the right audience, and to work with the right partners. But there is a life outside of Steam, and I think Steam is a fabulous business. God bless Game, a fabulous business. But they are what we would call a passive partner. So quite often, you load your game up, but they will do very little to help you outside of sort of core promotional windows. So then what we do is we then look for other routes to distribute. And there are a number of players in the market, of which we are one. Great companies like Humble, Fanatical, Games Planet, many third-party resellers. If you get it right with the third-party resellers, they can add an incremental 5, 10, maybe 20% onto your revenue outside of Steam. And to some people, that's a significant number. So I suppose the message there is do not discount, third-party distribution. Distribution is also quite complex. When you're dealing with prices, currencies, region lots, bits and bobs, loads of people get it wrong. Even the AAA publishers get it wrong. So one of the things you need to make sure
when you're partnering with a publisher is they know what they're talking about. Funding. Everyone likes funding. The way that we do it, we have a pot of our own money. So we invest up to about $500,000 in games. For games that require funds above that, so between $1 million and $2 million, we work with third parties. So 2 very credible game investment businesses, and we have a long-standing deal with them. Funding is always a challenging topic, and again, if you want to talk about this, please grab me, because there is no easy way of skinning the cat. One thing I would like to say is that if you take, then someone will take something else away. So within the contracts that normally you would have to sign, if you dial up on one point, then you'll see something change on the other. So it could be rev share, it could be how a recoup is done. There are a variety of different levers that can be put. Development support. So I said that we specialise in indie games. The producers that we have had great experience in indie games. So all the way, so the 2 guys we've got been around for a long time. They really do know what they're talking about. And actually, our job isn't to tell the developer what to do. Actually, most of the guys we work with are unbelievably talented. But actually, it is quite nice to have the opportunity or the option to ask somebody, or have you done this, or how did you get around this problem? So again, if you're considering a publisher, have a look at to see who's on bench. Are they credible? Will they help you? Communications. I'm actually in marketing, but that's sort of how I started. Really, really, really important to me. And I think, again, over the last few years, the route to market has become extremely challenging. I have, since working at Green Game for the last 4 years, we've not output any campaign that is even remotely identical. We've done some stuff in Kickstarter, we've done stuff with influencers, with KOLs, they call them in China. We've done an awful lot of stuff at grassroots sort of community level. The key thing with all marketing communications is start as early as you can. Don't leave it to the last minute where the game's looking, kick-ass, it's looking really good, and then you start to worry about the marketing. Grow your audience with you. We work with a studio called 10 Chambers, who are based in Sweden. They launched a game a couple of years ago called GTFO, amazing game if you haven't played it. They spent 5 years growing their audience, and even though they launched an early access product, they were able to bring 500,000 wishes to that party because they thought about marketing from day one. The last thing I think is really about partnership, and I think it's sort of really weird. I can't actually see anyone; it's just blowing heads. But please don't ever underestimate the value of partnership. And again, we do this by default. It's just the sort of way we are. We go over and above. I think we try to understand, the relationships of being a publishing partner. It's very, very important, and people do it. That's the way these things work. The other thing I'd also say is that from time to time there will be conflict. There always is. But don't hide about it. Don't sit and stew in the corner and get cross, because you know what? It's just rubbish. The faster you can tell people you're unhappy, the faster they can deal with the problem and fix it. And that's me. I think that's all I wanted to say. Please do grab me. Retail, distribution, funding, contracts, anything like that, I'm in there. Thank you, Bert.
Brilliant, thank you very much, Ian. Do grab on. We're now going to take a break to be a little bit shorter, but grab Ian, grab Brian, grab Tom, speak to all the speakers, speak to yourselves. If you want to go out to the garden bar, go out this. There's an exit out there, please, and we'll see you back at that.
Okay, folks, we'll kick off we'll figure out how to dim the house lights, so we'll let everyone see the screen a little bit better. So there we go. Fantastic. Thank you, Ethan. Okay, we jump up to Dundee next for a team who I've admired since their very first game, the brilliant VR title Honeypot Espionage. So joining us today is their CEO, Gary McCartan. Please welcome Gary.
Boy, you're right, you can't see anyone up here. So yes, I'm Gary, I'm Managing Director of Pocket Sized Hands. We're a small studio based in sunny Dundee, and we've been going about 5 years since we left university, somehow still. And for this talk, I just wanted to give the opposite side of survivorship bias. So this is my talk on the headaches of starting an indie game studio. And it's meant to be a 40-minute talk, but we've only got 10 minutes, so we might not get through all 7, so we're going to talk really, really fast. So the first big headache is taking on projects that match your vision. As a work-for-hire studio, this has been problematic for us, and I'll get to that, why that is in a little second. But the first thing is to know about your vision and know what your long-term vision is. So for us, our long-term vision is that we want to be able to fund our own IP, and we want to work on really cool work-for-hire projects. That's all. That's pretty much what everyone else here wants to do as well. We break that down, and we think about like how can we do that as part of our yearly vision? Like, what's our plan? And now in our 5th year, like our goal for this year is to start building relationships with publishers, because we're finally working on our own game, which is awesome. And everyone's monthly vision is the same when it all goes wrong, and the last thing that you want to be thinking about is that you just have to pay people. So those are the core visions that help build things up. And if you think about that in our journey, like one of the most recent projects that we worked on was Oddworld Soulstorm, helping them to port it to PlayStation 5 and helping them to port it to Xbox. You know, it encompassed our vision really well. Like it was like, you know, here is the really cool game that we want to be working on. And reflecting on our journey, it only took 5 games to get to a stage where we could actually pitch for Oddworld Soulstorm. That was Hypothalamus Hunt, the very first game that we did with St. Andrews University. We made a VR project called Driving Vision, which helped allow us to employ ourselves and fund the company. And then we made our first real game with Cambridge University. We made a game called Dish Life. Then we started doing a lot of co-development with studios in Dundee, like Tag Studios, Hyperluminal, and we got to learn from them while getting paid from them. So it was great. It was a win-win for us, but of course it was a win for them because we were helping them out. And then we ended up working on Pocket Mortys, which just helped build our credibility. And then we were able to pitch for Oddworld Soulstorm. It was really awesome. So just 5 games. But of course, over the last 5 years, it wasn't 5 games. It was 35 games. So it was a production nightmare. Essentially, when we started off in our first few years, we were like a freelancers, all working within the company, working on loads of little small short projects. And it was great for cash flow, but it was absolutely stressful. And looking back into our journey and our vision, like that vision of wanting to work on really cool projects, some of those 35 projects just didn't fit that. And while we were working on those projects, other projects would come in that matched our vision, and we had to say no to them because we just feasibly couldn't do it. So yeah, we only needed 5 projects to get the Oddworld Soulstorm. And could we have said no to a lot of those 35 projects? Yes. Would I have been happier? Yes, definitely. So yeah, don't do that. I can't talk on this one a bit, but you need to learn to say no, whether that's saying no to projects or saying no to clients and some of their demands. But yeah, let's practice. Alan, can you go get me a drink? All right, okay, good. You've been listening, it's fine. And one of the things that I found over the last couple of years, especially in the last 2 years, was the value of consultants. And we definitely didn't get consultants in soon enough. So, and what I mean, like, we've had loads of mentors in the past, and if we think about the differences, a mentor is someone who gives you free advice, and a consultant is someone that you're paying for to work with you. And mentors are great. You know, loads of people want to be a mentor. everyone loves helping each other, but they might not have time for you. They only get a snapshot of what you do. And so their vision can be a lot different from yours and what you expect. So sometimes that just means that it becomes their story that they want to tell you rather than helping you tell your story. And loads of people want to give you unsolicited advice. Everyone loves to give bad advice, especially me. But consultants are great because consultants work for you. And what that means is that consultants will do work for you. So you can take a lot of your stress and just be like, here you go, make me not stressed anymore. It's fantastic. And they eventually pay for themselves, either with finding you funny or helping, or funding, or they help save you money in the long run. And so it's a win-win for everyone. You know, if they're helping you save money or make money, you're going to pay them more money to keep working with you. But with consultants, they definitely have to match the company vision and understand what you're trying to do and what you want to do. So yes, if you haven't got consultants in and you can afford a consultant, do it. It's very worth it. The other thing as a work-for-hire studio that we thought we had down to a T from the very start was understanding what clients wanted. So we did really cool work with Poppy Scotland. We made a VR museum experience where you would go around the Lady Hague factory and you would learn a little bit about the people who worked there and how the poppies were made. And this was cool. This was amazing. It was for PC VR, and we had like 12 weeks to do it. Because it was such a short time period and because it was for PC, we just didn't think about optimization. We were like, we know the hardware. We're just going to make it crazy detailed. It's going to run on this hardware. It's going to be fantastic. And at the end of it, they were really happy. They were like, wow, this PC VR experience is amazing. Can we get it to run on the Oculus Go? And I said, fuck. So we had that problem where we knew what the client wanted. We knew exactly what he wanted, and our statement of work was perfect. But we didn't think about like what they actually wanted to do in the future, and it was a stumbling block that we hit a couple of times. But I think it's really cool how we solved this problem. For 2 weeks, we were working on trying to optimize the meshes that we'd created, but it ended up just becoming a blurry mess in VR. And so what I did, I don't know how this idea came to me, but we decided to take 360-degree renders of where each eye would be. And I wrote a shader that would project an image to each eye in VR. And essentially that gave you a 360-degree photosphere. And because you had two different images on each eye, it had 3D depth. And all we did was stick a table in the middle of it. And we were like, happy days. And it was great because the client put on the headset and went, whoa, this is amazing. How did you do it? And I was like, don't ask. So the next problem that everyone has is cash flow. Like no matter how big you are, how small you are. But if you're young and you're starting out and you don't have much experience like we didn't back when we started, I'm going to give you the best advice that you can think of that's going to make your cash flow journey a little bit easier. And that is ask for help, right? If you ask for help, right, that's just networking. You're saying, hey, I'm a young company. This is what we want to do. This is what we need. This is how we can help, right? And if you say that to a company, it raises your profile with the company because they know who you are, know what you want to do. And especially like even now at our stage, we're having to turn away projects just because they're either too small for us or we just don't have enough hands. So if you ask for help, you get put in the back of people's minds and yeah, then hopefully money comes from it. I don't have much time left. So I will round up the last 2 points really quickly. You know, there is a big disconnect when you move from developer to business owner. I really like Ron's talk earlier about the ship. Our ship is constantly moving and it's crazy and it's fun at the same time. But you really need to learn to manage your stress and really recognize your stress because that has a big effect on you. And that's it. That is my 40-minute talk in 10 minutes.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Gary. Okay, moving swiftly on. We have another guest who has traveled up from down south for us. He runs his own marketing consultancy and he moonlights on the side as a scout for Merge Games or maybe it's the other way around. I get confused. He does both brilliantly anyway. So please give it a warm welcome to Mr. HeyStephenHey.
Cool. Why it says 9:32?
You got your 25 seconds. Quick.
Okay, 25 seconds. So yeah, so take that off. Oh no! This is not to do with me.
Yeah, Stephen, you are not pressing.
Alarm. I don't need a presentation. I do definitely need a presentation. I'm here. I'm going to start. I'm just going to start. It's going to be crazy. My presentation relies on picture clues, so just no pressure. Hey, cool. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Good stuff. Okay, cool. Please work. Yeah. So this is me. This is a little Lego me. I used to be someone. I used to work for proper companies, like Ocean and Infogrames. And I know this is terrible. And I know I've just like thrown some images on there because I'm being all punk. And I know like Ron's probably vomiting into a bag at the back at the anti-aliasing or something. But you know, it's the way I'm rolling today. So I worked for those companies since 1993. And then 5 years ago, EA made me redundant. I was very bitter about it. But after the therapy, I'm fine now. And so I became a consultant, as Gary mentioned earlier. And I am now a consultant, and I work under HeyStephenHey. Very cleverly, just use my own name. And now I work with companies like these people. So some you might have heard of, some you haven't. And I love what I do now. I love it. I really love what I do. So marketing is what I do. That's what I've done since 1993. And I'm a marketing consultant for a lot of indies, B2B stuff, that kind of thing. As Carly mentioned, I do scouting for a indie publisher called Merge. And I also do educating just because I'm old. And essentially, you know, nearly 30 years of experience can be condensed to 3 PowerPoints, and I make some money from doing that. Not loads, it's rubbish money doing education, but it's so rewarding to see the kids' faces light up. So what I want to, numbers seem to be the theme of the day, and I'm going to give you five things, 5 pre-production marketing essentials, in the form of a picture quiz, because that's what everybody wants. Has everyone had both drinks? Because you're going to need them. Because I was going through this on the train and thinking, what was I thinking? What was I thinking when I did this? But anyway, we'll persevere. Special effects, they're free. And colors. So this is my first tip. Okay, it's obvious, isn't it? Any ideas? What have we got here? It's a card, which identity card. Did somebody say? I think I heard. And then what's going on over here in black and white? A race. Sort of a word for a race. A competition. Did somebody say? Identify the competition. So there will be prizes. There are. It's another lie. I have got stickers and business cards. They're not great prizes. So it's really important. So all this stuff is, before you plug your Spectrum in to make a game, this is what you should be doing. I'm using a lot of contemporary, I know Kyle was talking about TikTok. I've got a Spectrum. But benchmarking is really important, and you should be doing this, in your kind of concept stages. So I know you're not going to get all these points. The presentation is available by buying me a drink, but not by buying me a drink, by just coming and getting my card or giving me your card. But it's really important to look at the games that you're going to go up against, and then really look at the reviews, look at the stuff. We've got Steam, this massive database of information about games, which we can use to research, and it's free. So look at games, look at them for scale, look at them for pricing, and think about what you're going to make as well. There's things out there. Game Data Crunch is one of them. There's a couple of other databases. All sorts of oddness going on with the images, but it's punk. It's cool. It's fine. But Game Data Crunch, you can kind of look at your game against tags, but also against people who've also bought this game. So, you find a couple of games that are similar to yours, and it can give you a whole list of other games that are similar to yours. So it's a really good tool, and it's free. So definitely use that. Okay, hooray! Again, the pictures for some reason aren't showing, so it adds more jeopardy to the game. It's called emergent gameplay, guys. Write it down. So we have a boat. I'm not going to tell you more. Don't try and fix it. So, okay, come on. A boat. What kind of boat is it, kids? Trawler. Yeah, trawl. Yay! Woo! Troll Steam for reviews. Absolutely. So what you can do, you can benchmark stuff by looking at what the descriptions are. So that's what publishers and developers intend you to think about their game. But actually, if you troll the reviews, that's what players really find is true. And if you do that, if you troll enough reviews, you will find patterns, you will find the things that really matter to players. Okay. No. That's supposed to be an S with a strike through. Thanks, Microsoft. Yes, know your audience, or more specifically, know your player. We're taking the A off and putting ER on the end, because apparently in his day, Colin was a big player. I read it in the just in the lavatories on the second floor. So identifying your player, really knowing as much as you can about your player is really important. And, it's great if you're EA or you're Ubisoft, because you're going to have these big segmentation studies that you can find out about players. Quantic Foundry really helpfully are a US-based company, and they publish their segmentation. This is their kind of top-line segmentation. Segmentation is just really putting players into categories. Once you identify your key audience and the reasons why the top motivation, the reasons why they play games, you can really start designing a game which ticks off those motivations, and it can be very powerful, I think. This is in the real presentation. This is probably, I'm hiding some of it behind a firewall. But in the real presentation, you can actually go in and take the test and get your own gamer profile. So it's really good. I did it. This is what it came up with. So I don't know. And then that security alert came on, and special effects, just amazing. Okay, it's another picture quiz. People over there can't see that. Kyle hopefully mentioned this before. So we've got, what's Homer doing? Oh, nice, I like this. What is this, a piece of shameless marketing? Yeah. And this is a funnel. Yeah. think marketing funnel. So great that Kyle mentioned it. But yeah, the marketing funnel is essentially a funnel-shaped thing. At the top, it's about awareness, and we just try and get the message out to as many people as we can. And then we narrow it down, basically. We know that all of these people are not going to buy your game. It's the people at the very bottom that we're interested in, because they're the ones who are going to buy it, they're going to keep it, they're going to become ambassadors for your game if you get it right. And so this is a traditional marketing funnel that all companies use for marketing. And then these are the kind of things that a games company should be doing at each of those stages. All the time you're whittling down until you get to that point where these are the people who are going to buy, they're going to activate when I launch my game. So, and Kyle's already doing that, so that was tremendous. Last one now, you'll be pleased to hear. Okay, that is a picture of... Let's just tell it. This is the worst one as well. Even I couldn't do this one on the train, and I did it on Saturday. So do real maths, basically. And it was a picture of dough. But then what I was going to say was, need. Oh, yeah, you need real maths. Yeah, see. Cecile mentioned this as well, actually. So just try and work out, be as realistic as you can when doing your production costs. Development will take you longer than you estimate. It's only taken me 30 years to work that out. And estimate your sales. Use Simon Careless's, he's got a blog which I'm sure you all subscribe to. And oh wow, some of it appears. Yeah, and he's got two methods there for calculating potential revenues. And this Lego set's available at the merchant stand at the back. And that's me. I have got a whole load of links, so it's worth getting this deck off me. So please grab me and get it, and I'm done. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Stephen. You know you're getting old when someone refers to you as in your day. So thank you very much for that. Our next speaker is from a little publisher called Raw Fury, an indie publisher set up only in 2015 that saw huge initial success with Cathy Rain, and more recently with beautiful titles like Sable and the award-winning Backbone. So here from Raw Fury is their scout/producer, Mr. Garnett Lee. Thank you, Garnett.
Hello. I was not told there would need to be jokes. I feel like I should run out and do like, hey, it's great to be here tonight. I followed up after Stephen, it's like, I don't know what to do after that. Actually, now that I live in Sweden, we don't do jokes like that. I'm just filling while he pulls up the PowerPoint. I'm not that good at, oh no, another Microsoft. Maybe Clippy will show up in a minute. Friends, this is why you use Macs for all the important stuff. So tonight on karaoke, give me a song. No, I'm not actually. No, actually, I'm not walking to that. I know gamers. That would not end well. So, by the way, my name's Garnett. I don't know if anybody knows me because you've been around for a long time. I've done all kinds of things for a long time. Once upon a time, I was writing for a magazine called EGM and CGW and working on a website called 1UP. Then I published some mobile games once upon a time. Wow, you're making me fill for a long time. This is awesome. Right? I'm not even going to try the singing. That will end poorly because someone probably has an iPhone with a video camera on it. And I know what that's like. I've seen myself on too many of those. Far too many of them. Oh, look, it's a USB drive. So right now, actually, at Raw Fury, I do a bunch of different things. It's great because I get time to fill in this. I think that's one of the things that is helpful. One of the things that people ask about scouting is how do you scout? And I don't actually have an answer for that because there is no real way to tell you how to be a scout. It's a kaleidoscope of things because we are always looking at all the different elements of games, right? To be a scout, you have to have sort of an ability to understand game design, but also look at production and see if that's realistic. You have to understand looking at that marketing funnel. You have to be able to look at the market assessment of the game. Yeah, I know it's pretty funny, isn't it, right? I'll just stand up here and do like, da, 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 da. I'm the hip hop hippopotamus. My rhymes are bottomless. I did email the slides, yes. I mean, but you know, we don't actually have the slides. I can vamp for the whole thing. Raw Fury actually is one of the things that, so prior to moving to Raw Fury, I was working for a company called Amazon. It's this soul-sucking vampire that like takes everything out of you. And when I left there, I was going to take some time off, and my good friend Jonas, who founded Raw Fury, got a hold of me, invited me over there, and it's been an amazing experience. And so I just want to say, like, part of what I wanted to get across in this talk is that if there's a way for us to help you as indie developers be excited, but also like, how to put this in the right words, like not give two fucks about what's going on when you throw your pitches, because your pitches are going to be awesome because everything you're working on is your passion project. Like, it's not like you guys are pitching stuff that isn't already in the stuff that you're in love with, right? So it's about us trying to figure out how to help you and do that. And Raw Fury has a bunch of developer resources that we've made available, which is on this link right. Oh. Well, I mean, it's on the site, and there's a bunch of stuff in there, and some of it's really dry. Among other things, we have our publishing agreement. Lots of people have looked at it. There's an awesome YouTube series that like where a lawyer goes through our agreement line by line and talks about all the pieces of it. And I'll be honest, it's brutally honest, and it's awesome that he does this because you guys, when you're like making an agreement, it is a legal agreement, and it's important to know where you're coming from and what you're getting into. Everybody's agreement's going to be a little bit different. I didn't really want to talk about all that because what I wanted to help you with today is how to not be in that space where you've made your prototype, you've worked on your game, maybe you just came from a game jam, and you want to pitch it. And now all of a sudden you're at that spot where you're like, white computer screen. Cool. Well, I think I need to take the dog out now. Pitch prep resources to beat the blank page. Sounds very good. It all sounds very good, doesn't it? So what are we going to talk about today? No transitions, sorry. Sorry, Stephen, I didn't do transitions. But basically, pitches and productions and business, oh my. There's always that, thing of like, these are the things that we can get stalled on, and I don't want you to get stalled on them. I want you to actually feel like really excited with that same enthusiasm that you have for making your game, about the fact that you have a game that you are now out there shopping and talking to people about, and there are those of us who want to listen and want to like help you make it. So we have all these shared resources. If you go to rawfury.com, developer resources, you can find them. There's a Dropbox there that has templates for all kinds of support materials. There's stuff there that'll help you like build business assessments, look at market analysis and all that kind of stuff. But what I really want to talk about again is the pitch deck. So this is actually in our old format. Johan, I don't know if any of you guys know Johan, but he's crazy as I am, or maybe he's more crazy. I don't know, doesn't matter. Anyway, he made this pitch deck, and I'm going to walk through it really quickly, hopefully keeping an eye on my 20 minutes that I got today, because, I guess I got a bonus 10 minutes. Excellent. That gives us plenty of time. The point here of this is we're going to go through the point. The point was that we're going to go through the pitch deck. Okay, so what are you trying to do in your pitch deck? You've got a very brief window to get our attention. Last year, Raw Fury saw in excess of 1,200 pitches. It's really hard to deal with 1,200 pitches, and that's why we've beefed up our scouting team, and we really conscientiously try to look at every pitch and play every build. It's really hard. So this pitch doc doesn't need to be a Bible, and it wants to be something that is really passionate, because again, you're not pitching the next Tomb Raider. You don't need to give us the lore and legends of a AAA game, but what you do need to give us is the inspiration. Like, think about like Genova Chen pitching Journey back in the day, or Flower. Like, that wasn't a big pitch, there wasn't a big thing around it, but think about what an emotional moment it made for us as players and as game developers. And that's what you're trying to capture, right? So first thing you got to do, tell us what the game is in 2 sentences. Now, maybe you can't break your game down into 2 sentences, but break it down into something that's digestible. Like, is it a real-time strategy game? Is it a shooter? Is it a puzzler? Let us know what we're looking at. The next thing, who's making it? Who is making it? And who's making it is, who are you guys? Now, sometimes you're going to be, and we're going to talk about this in a minute in another slide, but sometimes you're going to be just students, right? I mean, everybody makes their first game. And that is quite all right, but give us why you're making the game. Like, is your concept artist someone who has been drawing floral prints for 20 years since they were inspired by their mom who was a master gardener? Like, those things are relevant because they're going to give us that background that lets us understand where you're coming from. Or is your programmer someone who's been writing C# for 20 years or whatever? I don't know. Like, but make sure that you get across the pieces that are really relevant there. The third thing, money. Don't be shy. Seriously, don't be shy about money. One of the things that's interesting is last time I was at an event, someone was telling me, like, publishers have been coming up to us and asking us if they gave us 5 times the amount of money, what we could do with it. Well, I mean, I think that's a really difficult situation to put a developer in, because you have built a game and you're building it around a vision, and unless it's something that's easily extensible, just throwing money at it is not going to necessarily make a better game. But on the other side, what I'm trying to encourage you here to do is don't cut yourself short. Please think about, like, all the things you want to build, the most beautiful, amazing version of the game you want to build, because that's what you want to pitch. And then finally, if you have some sort of like preliminary idea of how you're connecting with the audience, any sort of like Twitter followers, Instagram followers, I did a game jam and 35 people said this and this and this about it. Anything like that that anecdotally gives us an impression of how our audience is responding to it. This first sheet, I tell you, all of those pieces are great, but what's really going to matter is right there. So every piece of media that you put in your pitch deck, and I would recommend that you keep it to 4 or 5 PDF pages at most, or PowerPoint pages at most, needs to really get across your point. So beautiful video, concept art, anything that like really speaks to the heart of what it is that you're making. So then we get into your game design doc that you spent hours and hours and days and weeks on, condensed into 1 slide. So, you laugh because it's funny to say that, right? But the beauty of it is it's an exercise that's actually going to really serve your game development, because when you can take all of that and edit it down to those salient points, those pieces that are going to make it really work, then you've got something you can put a full development around and build a game. And that's part of what's being tested here, right? It's like, what is the thing? What makes it interesting? What is your, the big shots would call it universal selling point, but what is the thing that someone's going to play and have that moment? Sometimes you might want to say, hey, here's our core loop, here's our meta loop, here's our macro loop. That's one way to approach it if that's the way your mechanics work. Another one might be, here's what people do and here's the bullet points of our key mechanics. Whatever it is, think about it in terms of, if I was trying to communicate everything that was in all of the design work that I'd done, how would I do it in a quick and efficient way? Why are you making the game? Okay, I know some of you might think it's a little touchy-feely, but you're making indie games. Seriously, these are passion projects. We know how hard you're going to work on it, and we know how hard we're going to work on it. We know how much it's going to take to get this thing across the line. So this is your opportunity to really show what makes it sing for you. And I like how Johan put this here. I would write the description here, but it can only be done in your voice, because it really can only be done in your voice. This part is personal, and it's the place that you get to be personal. This is the part where you get to be personnel. Like I was saying earlier about describing your team, it's really important here to illustrate everybody that's in your team. And another reason for doing that is that depending on where you are in your process of making your game, you may not have assembled everyone that you need in your team. And that's something that we as publishers ought to be able to help you with, right? I mean, you would expect that if you need a new rigger that we would be able to understand that, like, oh, you know what, with what you're trying to do in animation and player character control, you need someone who is a absolute expert rigger and animator. We ought to be able to help you with that and identify that. And that's why we need to see these pieces here. On the other hand, you may have already laid in all of the parts that you need, and we can help you understand, like, how are you going to put them together? Do you have the production people that you need to run it? So don't be shy here, and don't overinflate capabilities either, because that really will come back to bite you later. This is that place where everybody needs to put the cards on the table and say, here's what we got, here's what we need to make this game. Aspirations. So this is really interesting because this is where you start to think about what do we think we can do with the game as far as sales, and where can it go as far as platforms. And to be honest, most of us don't really know what that is right off the bat. So this is where I would advise you to go to the Raw Fury website, go to our developer resources, and look at some of our sales projection figures. You can use Game Discoverability, you can use some of the other sites. I would also say that this is also where, once you hand the pitch to us, we can help considerably. So if this is a little bit blue sky, I think that's actually really good, because you want to sell us on the idea and the aspirations. So now we're getting down to really meat and potatoes. What do you need to make the game? This is super critical, and this is going to work in conjunction with the next slide, which is really stretched, but it's production plan. And so this is a place that I would really advise to spend the last bit of really strong effort that you have in pitching to us. It's important to get across to the publisher that you have this brilliant idea and that you have an idea of how to get there. You don't have to know all the road to get there. You know, that no one knows all the road it's going to take to get to the end of a game production. Right now I'm doing production and I'm doing marketing and other functions at Raw Fury at the same time. And I don't think anything ever goes exactly to plan. So you have to have the plan to know when you go off course. And having that piece here is going, and you don't know how much depth you need to get into here is another question that also comes up. If you're building a real-time strategy game, then yes, we need to see that you understand, you know, well, we're going to have X number of units in by here and Y number of maps in by here. But perhaps you're building a story game. And depending on what those elements are, your timeline and your production resources are going to change. We don't need to see every animator and every line item of every person who's going to be working on your operation. But it is good to understand dependencies and to understand who your people are that are going to be needed. So that's what you're going to put in here. And then finally, if you want to get into extras, one thing that will always make a publisher really feel good is if you go, and by the way, we think you'd be a great fit for us because blank. And I don't know what blank is. I mean, it depends. For Raw Fury, it's hopefully something like, we think that you guys really understand what indie game players like today, and you really understand how to like connect with them. Or we think that you're great working with developers, and we know that you're going to really stand by our side, or whatever it is. But actually being serious about this for a moment, think about who you want to partner with. All of us publishers, like, we're all very unique and interesting and different in the way that we do business. And I think that if you use this template to start from, you won't be staring at a blank page, and you'll have the ability to sort of figure out, what is my game? I wish I could remember her name, but the scout from Focus, she made a great point. Cecile made a wonderful point. Like, what am I making and what do I want from a publisher? Because we do all have different capabilities, but we all share one thing, which is we want to make great games with you, and we hope that you're going to make a great game with us. Yes, I landed on the final slide. Great success. Please feel free to get a hold of me, Garnett Raw Fury. There you go.
Awesome, thank you very much. Apologies for the technical difficulties. This is the joy of not doing only a live event, but trying to do a hybrid event as well. But thank you for your patience. We're running a little bit over, so I think what we'll do, for those that have ordered food, the food is now ready. It's sitting out in the garden bar. If you go out the door here, if you've ordered food, Sean and Ruben, I'll check in for that. To give folk enough time, what we'll do is we'll start the next batch of talks at 8 o'clock. and do the next 2 sets of 3 together. So you got about 45 minutes now, then we'll do talks from 8 till 9, and then we'll have another short break then. Okay, for this next batch, what we'll do is we'll do 6 talks in a row so that we've got another half-hour break before our final speaker. So, if you're up here in Edinburgh, you'll have seen that lockdown has seen a number of London developers move north for one reason or another, including our next speaker, who now counts Edinburgh as his home. I've been a huge fan of the studio before it was even a studio, I think. So please let me introduce the CEO of Glitchers, Max Scott-Slade. Welcome, Max.
Hello. Yeah, I've got the appropriate T-shirt on for tonight. Well, we do know that games can sometimes be no fun, right? Yeah, hello, Edinburgh. I know that it's weird to kind of not see anyone. Actually, it is really strange.
A little bit closer to
Yeah, no worries. So yeah, our studio is based down in Leith, and I say studio because that kind of doesn't really mean studio anymore, does it? Because everyone's remote. But I'm down there most days. So we moved up from Dalston. I say I moved up from Dalston about 18 months ago. So I still have yet to meet a lot of you, and I blame the pandemic for that. But what I've discovered about Scotland so far is it is the land of the haggis and blue cheese gyoza, which is absolutely crazy. I just don't even know where to begin with that. I've got photo evidence. Obviously amazing Evian like tap water, which is amazing, like so good. And apparently it's the land of the game developer. So Glitchers, we're a multi-award winning studio. And we sort of pride ourselves on the fact that we tend to build games that blend like all of the theory of game design with a problem that is nothing to do with games. And that way we kind of end up working with some really interesting people. You could say that we are famous for kind of being like in this kind of games beyond entertainment category, which we've been nominated for a BAFTA for. I like this space because like games are super powerful. And I think, you know, we come at them from this entertainment space a lot, and we build really, really good things. But it wasn't until we had this really amazing opportunity to work on this project, Sea Hero Quest, where we got to really exercise this potential. So Sea Hero Quest was a really, really weird brief that came to us from a bunch of scientists, a big blue chip company, and some institutes and some, honestly, too many people to build a game that would help in some way further dementia research. So we came up with this casual mobile game that you'd play on your phone. And the idea was that if we could get a little time of gamers, you know, contributing towards something like dementia research and also being entertained at the same time, maybe we could carve out this interesting proposition. So Sea Hero Quest was born. The objective was to try and, from the scientist perspective, get like 10,000 people to build this database for navigation. And they were looking at like the next biggest data set, which was 599 people, which, you know, as games, you go, that's nothing. And we said, look, we can get you 100,000 people. And we actually did that in the first 10 hours after launch. And we ended up making this, you know, one of the biggest research projects to do with navigation ever. It ended up having 4.5 million participants. We still support this now. It's closed to public participation, but it has a life that lives on in the lab. So we have like a lab edition and a VR edition as well that adds kind of additional tracking and stuff. So a really cool way where just an individual can go on an app store, download a game, and then actually contribute their time to something really valuable, which bridges these two fields. So that's probably the perfect example of what we do. And there's a couple of others, some more recent examples like Nestlems, where we worked with parents to try and build something that would facilitate a utility, because I think utility is something that often gets overlooked in games. You know, we build so many user experiences, and actually a lot of them can be repurposed for, you know, basic utility. So here we have a chore tracker and a pocket money tracker that parents can have on their device, help give tasks and stuff to their children, they can earn money. But then we also have, you'll notice a little play button down there where they can have a safe space where they can actually make mistakes with money, learn about digital currency, and learn how money works. We're all used to pounds and pence, but in this day and age, you know, the likelihood of having coins in your pocket is a lot lower. And another really exciting project as well, which we worked on, this is kind of a research one that never really actually came out because it freaked people out. But this was a bank account connected game. So something that actually, as you made payments, you know, like when you're a Monzo or something like that, you get the notification, you just spent whatever, 50 quid on a t-shirt you didn't need. We could actually take that data and then convert it into a game event in real time. So you're going around making payments on your debit card or what have you, and it's triggering these reactions, and you can discover these creatures much like Pokemon Go, and they would represent your spending habits. And those spending habits, you could choose to adopt them. And so when you did those things in the future, you could either save money or not, either to recognize that you had that habit or not. So it was a really cool way to visualize that. And you can see it doesn't look anything like a banking app, right? There's barely ever any like numbers on the screen. And when you do see things, it's more like these cute creatures that represent these things that you're doing on these islands that are kind of fantastical and interesting. And the projects we're working on now are, I can't talk about, which is annoying, but we're moving into other areas, taking games to these new places in biodiversity and in healthcare. And the stuff in healthcare is, you know, super important. I think games are disarming, you know, they're these amazing things that can tell incredible stories. And if you can use them to kind of get closer to someone in a really good way, to kind of learn about them, to help them change something about themselves that they want to change about them, then I think they can be really powerful tools for change. And so this is kind of where we're pushing games to. And if you're interested in that, come say hi to us. Mari's in the audience, and she's here as a game designer to kind of help me talk to anyone who's interested in what we're doing. Thanks.
Awesome. Sorry, I lost my place. So another visitor from London this time, although she's only with us for a couple of days. It's the lady who's responsible for handing out, and don't quote me on this, but I think it was £180 million in video games tax relief. This is someone you want to know. Well worth paying attention to. Please welcome the BFI's Head of Certification, Anna Mansi.
Hi everyone. So is that counting down or counting up?
Reset that for you.
Oh. Great. Hi, good evening everyone. I can't see anyone either. I first want to say thank you to Colin very much for having me up here for 3 days. Just to clarify, I'm not the one that actually gives out the money. That's HMRC. But we're the gateway for accessing the video games tax relief, which we've had in since 2014. So just a quick bit about me. I head up the certification unit at the British Film Institute, and we're responsible for qualifying projects to be British to access tax relief for video games, animation, TV, children's TV, high-end TV and film. But we do a lot of promotion for video games because the games industry is one of the newest ones, tax relief we've had, and the film and TV industries has had a lot of government support for years and years and years. So this is going to be a whirlwind of the VGTR. I have got leaflets with me which go into a bit more detail about it, and I'm happy to chat to people, but I'm just going to go through the essentials for you. So, first of all, I want to clear up some misconceptions about video games tax relief. It's open to all sizes of games company, from the big studios to tiny developers. The first game that we qualified as British to access tax relief was one that was worth £10,000. So it's accessible to everyone. You don't have, sorry, did someone say something there? You don't have to have a red phone box in your game. You don't have to have a Scottish flag, a Union Jack, or anything like that. It isn't about putting identifiers into your game to make it look like it's British. There's a number of elements that you can put in. You can make your game how you want to make your game. If you are a UK games developer, you will probably be able to qualify, and we can talk you through the points. How you get the points, there's a whole range of ways you can do that, and I'll go into a little bit of detail about that. Only narrative games can pass the cultural test? No. Any kind of game, mobile games, puzzle games, we have all sorts. We've had VR, interactive content where as long as you're making choices, that can qualify as well. If you're unsure of something you're making, will qualify, always get in touch with us. We're very accessible. It's not about you filling in a form and then it's like you filled in something wrong, big red cross, you can't have the money. I think one of the things that a lot of people think of, oh, the word tax, it's sort of something scary, but this is actually the government wanting you to have some money to make your games in the UK and continue making your games in the UK. And we've done reports and valuations. We published our last one in December last year that demonstrates the value of the games tax relief and the value of the games industry. And I can certainly send you links to that if you want to see it. It's for any type of platform. As I said, we've done VR games you can use. It can be mobile, it can be every platform you can think of. Sorry, I've gone blank. This is the first time I've done an in real life presentation for 2 years. So I'm sure you know all the platforms that are available. They all apply. Okay. As I've said before, it's not only for large budget games, any size of budget qualifies. The application process requires an accountant. It doesn't necessarily require an accountant. You may need an accountant when you've completed the game and you're applying for final certification, but we can advise you on whether you need an accountant or not. And it'll only be to verify certain elements, and we'll tell you which elements you should go for. We're always trying to make it as easy as possible for you, even though it is form filling and it is business. You know, I know as game developers, a lot of you will want to concentrate on the fun, creative stuff, but as Ron was saying earlier, this is a business part of it that is really valuable to you as well. The game must have a publisher. No, you don't need a publisher. That doesn't mean you don't need a publisher, full stop. It means that to apply for the tax relief, you don't need a publisher. You may find some publishers may want to claim the tax relief on your behalf. That's something that you need to negotiate and speak to lawyers about. They don't get to make that decision. You have to negotiate that. And as I say, definitely speak to your lawyers. And you have to own the IP. You don't have to own you don't have to own the IP. The legislation regarding the video games tax relief is silent on that. But again, it's one of those areas. Someone may say, well, if the publisher wants to own the IP, they may say it's one of those legal things that you should get into. So, why do you want to apply it, and what's it worth? So, the most important thing is if you are making your game and it's all made in the UK or the EEA, and post-Brexit, it still qualifies for EEA expenditure. It's the only one of the screen sector tax relief that does get UK and EEA expenditure. So if you have, you outsource some work to another you have offices in other EEA territories, you can claim the tax relief on that EEA spend as well. You can only claim on 80% of it though. That's the cap. This goes back to old state aid legislation rules that I really don't want to tell you about state aid. It's really boring. But we still are applying those rules even though we've left the EU. So it's 80% and the rate is 25% of that 80. So ultimately on a £1 million, £100,000 budget, you can claim on 25% of 80,000. That's the 80% of the 100. And you could ultimately get 20,000 back. So it's 20%. If it's all UK EEA expenditure, you can get up to 20% back, which is a huge chunk. Now, you can't actually get it in advance, but you can get it during development. So if you've done 6 months worth of work and you've done £50,000 worth of work in that 6 months, you've got another 6 months work to go, you can claim on that 50,000. And that can help you go into the next 6 months. And I know there's some developers here that have used the video games tax relief, and I would encourage you to speak to them. And if there's anything you're concerned about, as I say, we're very open and accessible. Right, I'm conscious of time. You can include the VGTR in finance plans. If you want to get upfront, there are lenders, banks and specialist lenders out there. A few of them, Barclays do it. Coots maybe, I'm not quite sure if they're doing a lot of video games. Sugar is another one. I don't know all of them and I don't work for any of them, but look around and ask around if you want the money up front. Someone will lend against it, but that may be a fee and there may be conditions attached to it, but it's helpful to have it up front if you need it. The most important thing that I will tell you, it's not about the points and how many you will get, because we can talk you through that. The most important thing for you is to make sure you have a games development company that is set up before you begin development, and that company remains responsible throughout to completion. And I cannot stress enough, if the company is set up after you've begun development, HMRC won't pay out. So this is the most important thing. It takes 10 minutes to set it up on Companies House, and I think it takes about 48 hours to register, and it's about £12. It may not be, it may be a little bit more. Someone can, or if you get accountants to do it, they may charge you a bit more. But that's the most important thing. Have the company set up. If you've done prototyping or a vertical slice, that's fine, as long as you set up the company before you go into proper full development. The game has to be intended for supply, and that can mean just, it can be free to play, but it has to be available for the public to purchase, whether free or paying for it. And you have to qualify as British through the cultural test. There's the last thing here, is it a game? I mean, I think you all know what a video game is. I think that we put this in because HMRC were very woolly about what a video game is, as in what is known as the common meaning. So sometimes when I was talking about VR experiences, as long as there's some sort of interactivity, then potentially that could qualify for the video games tax relief, but always come and have a word with us and we can talk you through it. Very quickly, this is the cultural test. Normally we go into a lot more detail when we're doing longer talks, and I've only got 1 minute left, so I'm going to go really quickly through this. So the pass mark is 16. It's broken down into cultural content, what you're seeing on screen, and that could be setting, characters, the storyline, if there is one, and language. And that's not language necessarily dialogue, that can be all your subtitles, all that kind of stuff, menus, all of that. You don't have to have characters. It doesn't matter if it's a puzzle game or if it's a racing game, you have different nationalities. We'll treat characters broken down into UK or EEA representation. So there's a lot of accessibility there. So essentially you can pass the test in section A alone, but if you don't get all the points in section A, that's fine. There's 3 other categories you can get the points. So cultural contribution, does your game add value through British innovation, British heritage, or diversity, and that's not limited to being British. That's either on screen you have characters that are inclusively representative, or your team is inclusively representative or underrepresented. And then, oh, sorry. I'm going to go 1 minute over, Colin, I'm sorry. So cultural hubs, you get points if the game is made in the UK, and there's 3 different areas in each of 2 categories, and you only have to have done 50% of one of those activities to get the point. And then cultural practitioners, there's 8 categories. And that's about the individuals making the game. And even if you are just a 3-man team and you qualify for the point in more than one area, that you get the point for every category that applies to you. So very, very quickly, how to apply. This is all detail. It's about what we need. We need budgets and schedules. We can talk you through all of that. We have templates you can use. And that's it. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Anna. I don't know whether Anna got a chance to mention GamesAid. She's a big supporter of GamesAid, whose nominations for their charities to support are open at the moment. If you were asking people to vote for their charity that GamesAid should support.
Yeah, so if you want to vote for your charities, the voting closes at the end of the week.
So get voting. Cool. Thank you, Anna. Whilst I remember, we're going to do the raffle draw for the prizes. If you still haven't made a donation, you can still do that. Go to ukraine.gamestalks.live to buy tickets through the Just Giving page, or see Sean and Ruben that were on the door and I think are now mingling among us, and you can buy a ticket in person. However, moving on, but sticking with the London connection, our next speaker, I've lost his introduction. So as our next speaker has also kindly trekked all the way up from London. He was one of the founders of Surgeon Simulator developer Bossa Studios, and he's someone I never stop learning more from every time he talks. So please give a warm welcome to Imre Jele.
Hello. Oh, wow. I have to do it like this. My favorite version was giving an interview on stateside, and it was really hot weather. And the person who was preparing me for the interview kept looking at my head, and I could see that she's thinking, how can I ask a bald man if I can powder his head? So that was awkward. For her, I thought it was funny. So, hello, hi, my name is Imre, and I'm here to make an admission. I don't know what I am doing. Like many creators, not just games, but films and TV and other forms of entertainment, I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out what I'm doing. In fact, at Bossa Studios, which I co-founded, I was chief what are we doing officer. And I realized after a while that I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm here to tell you that I think you don't know what you are doing either. And as scary as it sounds, I actually think this is a good thing. And that's what I'd like to talk about today. So first of all, let me talk about game design. We don't know what we are doing. I don't know if you've heard this phrase that no one knows how to build a phone. It's simply because even if you know how to program it, you don't know how to build the hardware. If you know how to build the hardware, you don't know how to mine the ingredients. And I feel like the same is true for games. Games are infinitely complex. And as such, I find it very difficult to believe that any single person can understand every single aspect of a game. Even if you take a game super simple, developed by a single developer, you're still going to lean into decades of knowledge, if not thousands of years of board game and other development knowledge established before you. We don't know what we are doing. But it's not just about technical complexity. Games are more than just lines of codes and pieces of assets. Games are art, and as such, they are about emotions. And a game is not what you design. The game is not what you manage to put in the code. The game is not even what appears on the screen. The game is what happens in the players' heads, and that is impossible to read. Games are art, and as such, they are formed by and they form emotions. And those are very difficult, if not impossible, to measure. Now, I love this. I love this because it kind of gives us a pass to not just rely on facts, but also allow our emotional side to come into the design. We can sometimes say, I don't know, but I feel pretty confident. I feel this is the right answer. And I think that's pretty awesome. When we talk about business development and forecasting, we don't know what we are doing. The reality is that the vast majority of forecasting that developers do are frankly made up. There are here in this room people whose job it is to do forecasting, and some of them are really good at it. But the fact is that this industry is packed with games which should have been successful and weren't. And vice versa. There are games which had no right to be successful, including Surgeon Simulator, what we worked on, and then ended up being a huge success. The exercise I give to people is this. Pick any surprise breakout hit, Minecraft, or Among Us, or Surgeon Simulator for that matter. Go back to the time when the developers started working on it and find concrete evidence that proves that it's going to be a success, which would stand the scrutiny of a boardroom. It's an extremely difficult challenge to do. Now, I'm not saying don't do your research, but just also we have to say we don't know what we are doing. There are huge unknowns in this field. And once again, I think this is a wonderful thing. It's great that we don't know, because it's a proof that we are still breaking new ground. It's a proof that there is still a huge area for creative enterprise, which going to be a great success, but so far we do not have any facts to back that up. Right now, you cannot justify, you cannot forecast a success, and yet it is going to be a success because you're going to create something which did not happen in the industry yet. Thirdly, let me talk about the audience. We don't know what we are doing. But the good news is that the players don't know what they are doing either. Henry Ford is claimed to have said that if he asked people what they wanted, they would have asked for faster horses and not cars. And I think the same is true for games. Players don't know what they want. One of my favorite stories is a gun in an action game being criticized by the players for being too weak. Only after a simple update, they celebrated that this is now the best weapon in the game. The only change which happened in that weapon is that the sound effect was replaced by something louder. I know this because I made that change. And to this day, I do this. Ultimately, we as developers, we cannot quite know what's happening in the players' heads. Doesn't matter how many focus tests you do. Still, you should do them, but you have to accept that there will be always going to be a huge layer of what's happening in the audience's head. Remember, it's not just your game. It's what's happening in the player's head. Even worse than that, it's not just what's happening in the player's head. It's what's happening to everyone else's whose comments they see online and what's happening in their friends' heads. There are a bunch of games which I only play because my friends told me to. This is an extremely complicated setup. We don't know what we're doing, but the players don't know it either. And I think, once again, this is pretty good. It is good for us because it means that there is not a formula, there is not a setup yet which has been proven, and that's the only way to do a successful game. Game development remains an open discourse. It is something that you have to do with your fellow developers. It's something that you have to do with your players. It's a back and forth, and I think that's pretty cool. So here we are. I think that we don't know what we are doing. And of course, the next question is that what can we do about it? Are we just going to lie down and give up? Or is there something that we can do about it? And I think there are a few things that you can consider doing. The first idea, which I would like to present to you, is that we don't know what we're doing, but sometimes we just don't care. Now, I'm not saying that don't think about things. Of course, you should do your research. You should understand your players. You should design your games very carefully. But then there is a margin of it where you just say, sod it. I am just going to do it because I believe in it. There is a Hungarian proverb about a horse doing very dangerous stunts, saying that this horse is really brave or blind. And sometimes that's what you need. You need your blind conviction to bridge from the known to the unknown, to the factual, provable things that because you've done your homework, to the next level where you are doing something crazy that no one expected and you're going to surprise everyone. Sometimes we have to make the game despite evidence because we just believe in it. We don't know what we're doing. And it can be a very scary word out there, right? So what are the variables that we can operate? I think there are two. You can change the games you're working on, and you can change yourself. I'm going to start with what you can do about yourself. We don't know what we are doing, and it is a survival of the fittest out there. So what you can do is to look at your own work, and you start to remove the element of chance. You want to maximize how much depends on your work and how much depends on a random roll of a dice. This pursuit, this constant evolution of yourself, is an endless pursuit of perfection, and as such, it's an unobtainable pursuit. You will never be able to achieve that. This is not a goal. This is not a task you finish. This is a lifestyle. This is an attitude. But you have to keep doing that, because with every single iteration, we are learning something new. With every step you're taking, you're going to learn something. And with that, with everyone else doing something, we all learn from it. It's one small step for a developer, one giant leap for the games development industry. You can also change your games. You can iterate. You can come up with new ideas. And I thought a lot about innovation. Bossa Studio was praised a lot for that. And I always like to quote the Hitchhiker's Galaxy. And I read this out. This is what the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy has to say about flying. There is an art to flying, or rather a knack. The knack lies in learning how to throw yourself at the ground and miss. Clearly, it is the second part, the missing, that presents the difficulties. And I think you can adapt that to video gaming innovation as such. There is an art to innovation, or rather a knack. The knack lies in learning how to throw yourself at a failure and miss. Clearly, it is the second part, the missing, that presents the difficulties. We don't know what we are doing. We try our best and we work very hard to know more, but ultimately, we don't know everything that we should. We try our best and it's hard, but why are we trying? Because we love making games. Because players love playing games. Because we love it when players love playing the game that we love making. It's all about love, isn't it? The Beatles said that there is nothing you can do that can't be done, nothing you can sing that can't be sung, nothing you can say, but you can learn how to play the game. I like to add, nothing you can learn how to develop a game. It's easy. All you need is love. We don't know what we're doing, but one thing I know for sure, if you love what you're doing, that's going to take you a very long way. Thank you.
Fantastic. All you need is love. Very true. And none of us know what we're doing. Can't agree with that enough. Brilliant. Thank you very much, Imre. One of the things that always puzzles me is those of us in game development don't actually know much about the burgeoning eSports market. So we'd like to change that tonight. So if he's here, I'd like to welcome from the British eSports Association their Scottish Liaison Officer, Mark McCready.
Oh, there we go. Hi, everyone. Wow, they're really true about you can't see anybody up here. I can see a couple of blue heads. That's about it. But yeah, no, thanks once again, Colin, for asking me to come on. Basically, today I want to talk to you about esports. It's probably a sector of the games industry that you've heard of. Some of you might know a bit more than others. But it is something that, as of the recent years, has gained a lot of traction and popularity across the entire industry. And I'll just touch into a bit about myself here. There we go. So my current role at British eSports Association is the Scottish Liaison Officer. I also fit under the education category that help with assisting some of the education materials and developing some of the resources. That's some place where my interests lie. But I looked down the research of how we can use video games and use the likes of esports to help engage young people into this industry. Using esports as that facilitator, the engagement online that we see from the content creators, and how we can bring that in. And a couple of the experience I have across, things like I've worked in the esports industry for the past 4 years. Some of that as a student. Some of it actually moving into helping develop some of the national scene, the Scottish Esports League with Esports Scotland, and helping assist the university scene of helping connect societies together and collaborate and create opportunities with one another. And just in the summer last year, helping develop the Microsoft Esports Teacher Academy across the world as well with the rest of the team at British Esports. Don't know if my transitions are working. But yeah, a bit about British Esports. So we're a non-for-profit organisation. We're established in 2016 with permission from the UK government. So we've been set up as a national body to help develop the entire industry and scene across the board. And that's from a grassroots to an amateur level. Professional, we do work with a lot of the professional organisations and teams that you see competing online, some of which are your sort of big leagues like ESL, or your League of Legends, or your Dota, or Counter-Strike. We do have really good relations, and we look to sort of garnish that relationship to bring it back down and show the progression pathways and opportunities all around that people can get involved with. So one of the things that we do aim to do is, part of our 3 goals is to promote the esports scene across the UK, increase its level of awareness, improve that standard. There is no framework that's been there over the past few years, and we're looking to help develop that framework and provide a bit of support and structure to allowing young people to get into this industry, whether that is through a game development pathway and the various roles that a lot of the generic people on the street might not understand about the game development positions, but also the wider things like events management, business, production that we'll cover later on. Ahead there. So yeah, part of the British Esports Association is we don't just do it ourselves. We do look for industry to help input into this. It's not a one-man show where we go out and we try to do it all ourselves. We do have a great advisory board that's chaired by Andy Payne, who you might know from the game development side of things, who has basically helped bring in the right people from across different areas, even within esports, from different organizations, companies, from an international and to a local level as well. And just a few of them here, they've been fantastic. They've helped us develop to where it's at today and some of the initiatives that we're currently working on. So why do we promote esports? Now, you might think esports is the high-end competitive gaming. You've got to be the best of the best at the game. But there's actually a few levels below. Some people do it to have fun, play with friends, get in a team, go online, play against each other on some of their favourite games, in some of the games that come out. And it's to try different things. It's to try create the friendship, embrace that community aspect, build upon the sort of focus and concentrations and highlight some of these key features. One of the things that we do is work with educators quite a lot. One of my main roles is working with schools and colleges and helping highlight the benefits of using video games within an educational manner and how we can use esports as that engagement side to bring them closer and to work together. And just on the screen now, you've got quite a lot of examples of how students do this, and how it can actually develop into their development. And inspire them into getting involved with the games industry as a whole. So yeah, as I was saying, there's a lot of different roles. There's a lot of different skills. There's a lot of great positive benefits. Some of us know that some of the roles up here are great examples. Some of you will know from the exact game development side of it, some of the software engineering, UI, UX designs as well, networking, mobile technologies, but it also classes alongside some of the academic links. Some people will go into different sciences, into STEM careers as well. And esports and gaming should be that vehicle. If that's their interest, we should be enabling and encouraging young people to utilize that vehicle to get them to the place that they want to be, instead of in previous years where we've kind of shunned them to the sides and it's something that they don't really want to do, or we should try to push them away from it. We should actually be encouraging young people because that's what they want to do, and it's pushing them in the right direction and providing the benefactory basically factors to really encourage them to move forward in their development, get the qualifications they need, and get the experience in the organisation and jobs that they want to have in the future. So one of the things that we're really proud of in one of our first initiatives is the Student Championships. So across the UK, we've worked with basically around 100 schools and colleges. We encourage them to create extracurricular clubs where they can compete in a national league. We now have about just under 100, I believe it's about 87, 90 schools and colleges who compete. We've got about 400 teams from across the UK, and they compete every week as part of a continuous competition, just like you would with football or rugby when you were at school. So it's trying to emulate that, but also bring esports and video gaming into that criteria. And what we've actually developed over the past few years is really strong relationships with some of these schools and colleges, and help being able to connect industry into them and provide the examples of careers and opportunities and some of the great experiences that you get as being a student, as a young kid, being able to be inspired and move on and create some fantastic video games as a developer, or move into this space and help create the new service that's going to revolutionize the future of the industry or outside the games industry. I think that's one of the parts we encourage a lot. Is this is one of the facilitators of trying to get people in, young people that are interested, and engage them. One of these, one of these schools is Alva Academy. It's a school, secondary school, just outside of Stirling. It's a couple of miles away, and they've really embraced the esports brand. What we talk to a lot of teachers and educators, lecturers, is that you're building a culture, you're building an identity for the school or the college to relate with young people. I remember speaking to someone from Dell Technologies who run esports programs in North America. And one of the examples they used was that they had a statistic about 87% of the kids that they had come along had never engaged in any other society or club. And they have quite a lot of students across all their programs across North America engaging in these esports clubs. And to just see this as an example of allowing kids to have fun, embrace what they're wanting to do, what they do at home after school, and really try to engage them into this and provide these opportunities, like at the CDN Awards, where we got them on stage, where they got to compete against another college, Forth Valley. And just about that identity as well, they've got their own kits, just like you would with a football team or a rugby team or any other that you can think of, volleyball. They all have their own kits, and it's trying to build upon that identity and encourage them that you should be proud to wear. You should be proud that you play video games. You should be proud that you're representing your school or your college. And it's all about this. It's all about trying to encourage young people moving forward. This is also Forth Valley College, who won the Division 2 Rocket League competition down in Nottingham last year. They definitely brought the crowd. They were the loudest in the room. They also loved to show that they were Scottish, as the only Scottish team down, and they really did well. I think if I remember correctly, they completely swept the opposite team. And I just remember thinking back, and the feedback afterwards, they were saying, "Yep, they were the loudest. We knew when Scotland was on playing." And another part, I'm talking about video games and playing and when people go home, but it also includes a completely other section of people that are underrepresented. When it comes to playing the likes of football or rugby, like I'm talking about, is just key examples of the most popular sports there. There's barriers, there's physical barriers. And what esports actually provides is an opportunity for people that might not have that same level of playing field with a physical sport, the exact same level playing field when they're playing an esports title or they're playing a video game online competitively. So they get this opportunity. Doesn't matter their background, especially with the anonymity online. You do not know that you're playing against somebody with a disability or someone that might have a health condition. And it really builds upon their character and confidence. This was actually from our student finals, where we had National Star College come along. They participated in one of our AOC competitions for FIFA, which was against all the other colleges in England, Wales and Northern Ireland, and nobody knew he had a disability. And it was the first time he actually got to play against another person on FIFA And although he was disheartened by it, the feedback of him actually enjoying playing and actually being able to do that against other people was fantastic. There was so much joy and cheer in his face that we were really taken aback by it, of how impactful just allowing them to play and represent their institution. But another thing, and it touches into yourselves as developers and within the games industry as well, one of the factors with esports that we do talk about is the anonymity side. We talk about being online, the safety behind it, and it's something that I'd like to encourage as well, having this platform, is consider if you do have an online multiplayer aspect, that you can ensure the safety of that user that's on as well. Having things like report buttons, allowing people to report sexual harassment or abuse that's online, it really builds to a strong ecosystem all around and support. And just to touch, I'm just realizing the time there, finish up quickly. Just another sort of initiative that we've been working on is the National Esports Performance Campus. So it's a centre that we bought in Sunderland, and we're looking to turn this into a national platform for teams across Scotland, England, Wales, Northern Ireland, and even international to come boot camp, have what you would have in traditional sports, but within the UK, and have that performance campus, tying in the educational values like we were talking about. And then finally, you might have seen about the Commonwealth Esports Championships, where we're looking to have all 4 nations, including overseas territories, compete on some of our most popular esports titles and video games, and really provide a platform to inspire young people to enter into this industry and to have fantastic opportunities in the line to watch along with. And I'd just like to say thank you. And if you want to chat to me, I'll be over in the back. And thank you once again.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Mark. Okay, I think a lot of us are fascinated by outer space. And as developers, a lot of us are arguably even more fascinated by how to fund our next project. So our next speaker might just be able to combine the two of us in a way where you can find out how you can use data from outer space combined with some funding to make a game. So here is the European Space Agency's Regional Ambassador for Scotland, Ken Gordon.
Hello. And yeah, it's the best job title ever, by the way. You get free chocolate and there's a man outside with a big black car. Thank you. Time starts now. Hi, I'm Ken Gordon. I'm the Business Ambassador for European Space Agency. Why am I here? This has been such a super event. I've learned so many things and met so many interesting people. We have funding for projects. We fund serious games. So let's crack on. This is probably the most corporate presentation you're going to see. European Space Agency is part of the UK pays into it. It's not Brexit hasn't affected it in any way. UK is the 4th biggest funder of it. And we are here with a massive space network that allows businesses to connect and get money and get involved in some big spacey projects. Talking about big spacey projects, this slide normally breaks the internet. And it hasn't. Yes. I did an event first thing this morning that was all the way to France and my internet broke. No. Anyway, thank you for listening. We have a lot of money available for all sorts of different things. We do cool stuff, things in space, grabbing satellites. The business that I'm talking about is the application of space, because all of this stuff has been paid for by our taxpayers' money. So we've paid for this, all the satellites. And what there is the money is there for you to do satellite or space asset-based projects because we've already paid for them. Let's get the benefit from them for mankind. And right, so you're thinking, oh, a project, great. What do I need to do? It's very, very simple. You have to have a project that solves a problem. You have to have a potential commercial outlet for it, or be able to give it away, but have a commercial dispersal, have a commercial outlet for it. Let's stick with that. And also you have to use at least one space technology, okay? If you were saying, oh, what are all the space technologies? Well, these are some. So you can be using space weather. I think I've already heard some great stories about apps that use weather and location. You can use Earth observation pictures, which I think was my first slide, but there's some later on. Satellite navigation, one of the most common things you use, just basic location. If you have a game that solves a problem for which there's a market and you're using GPS or GNSS, you could get half the cost of the game. Satellite communications and human spaceflight technologies. Someone did actually make a project based on something to do with a piece of spacesuit. So, and most of the successful projects that we have mix all those usually satellite data projects, and they mix them with 5G, they mix them with all sorts of things, AI, VR. I was just saying in the break there, I've got a game that's going to be evaluated. A Scottish company applied with a game that will be evaluated on Thursday morning at 9 o'clock, which is 10 o'clock Central European time, which means I've got to be online at 9 o'clock in the morning. And it uses VR, and it's a really cool thing that's going to teach people how to use the environment. We've talked about educational games. Yes, that qualifies. If you're doing something that makes a difference, educating people in, I don't know, different ways to stay indoors during COVID-19, would you believe that got funded? So, satellite data, do things with it, and I am definitely not speaking to the space industry. I talk to every other sector, tourism, fintech. We get some fintech games. If my baker around the corner where I live in Glasgow had a project, I would love it. He's got good bakery. Anyway, some details. You will get these slides. Don't feel you have to absorb them in any way at all. The most popular thing is the open call. No deadlines. Every Thursday, projects get evaluated. They get invited to pitch. They get offered, and if you get through pitch, and there was super pitch advice earlier on, which applies to all kind of pitching. If you get through pitching, you will get invited to write a big proposal. But before you go, oh no, the starting point is 7 pages, a 7-page questionnaire. I'll show you a bit about that later on. The money available then for open call is, if you're doing a feasibility study, up to 250,000 euros, project value, lasting about 9 months, you will get 50%. And if it's a demonstration project, up to, well, not, 1 million, 2 million euros, probably, you get 50%. Bearing in mind, you have to get the other 50%. The other 50% can be anything except other public money. A bit like what we were saying early on, ESA does not take any IP. ESA is not interested in your IP, and you get the ESA brand. You get the right to use the logo. You get invited to ESA special investment events where you meet investors. You get networked, if you want, into other bits of ESA and space stuff, but we do not take any IP, and you get to use our badge. You get technical and commercial guidance. That's me. And you get access. Oh, I've covered the list. Yeah, so what happens is you get me helping you understand and whether you want to apply, helping you to pitch, a technical officer helping you to write the other bits of the proposal. I'll talk a bit more about that later. We also run competitions. These are some. These are usually quite short, but they're very thematic. There's usually only one winner. You can tell from my voice I'm not a fan. But the funny thing is, if you apply for space for tourism and it doesn't quite fit the competition, you can still apply through Open Call and might get more money. So it's all about speaking to people who know these things. The ambassadors, there's 4 of us in the UK, have a chat, say, I've got this project, this is the stage it's at, this is what it's doing. I'll ask, well, who's buying it? Is there someone buying it? Is there some outlet for it? What's the space tech you're using? Do you know how to use the space tech? And you could be up for 50% of your project costs to develop it. I've got some examples at the end. As I said earlier on, the process starts with an APQ. They love an acronym. Who loves acronym? No, I don't. An APQ form, 7 pages, 8 pages, 7 pages have to be filled out. That's all you have to do. Demonstrate what your project is, who your market is, why, as we were saying earlier in the pitch one, why is it, why should you deliver this project? And you're on. And that you get invited to a pitch, you do your pitch, you get through that, they will reserve the money for you while you write the rest of your application. That's unusual. And you get help all the way through that process. Outline proposal and full proposal. Meh, but full proposal is about 90 pages, but you're going to get somebody supporting you to do it. Right, here's some examples, things that have been funded very recently. Ludo Trek, I wish I could read that screen, but I can't. So a GNSS-based learning game, gamified features. I can be gamified like crazy. Has anyone used Duolingo here? I'm on an 856-day streak. Why? Because I can't give up. You know, it's like, yeah. So this is an idea. It's like Pokemon Go, but with an educational twist. This got funded quite recently, and it uses GNSS. Here's another one, Vedus. Vedus as a demonstration project. It uses AR, VR. It's about enriching tourist experience of archaeological sites. Tourism, heritage, all of that stuff is up for grabs if you're solving a problem. Here's one called EcoPlayer. And EcoPlayer is aimed at primary schools, secondary schools, and yeah, promoting didactic knowledge, don't know what that word means, and innovation and good educational practice. So if you're looking at that and going, well, they look pretty lame, I've got a better game than that, speak to me. Let's speak to me. Let's talk about this. The picture I showed at the very beginning, which was in red and looks terrible on this screen, is here. I got this information coming over on the train, ScotRail Wi-Fi. Yeah, despite ScotRail Wi-Fi. A lot of the information you get from satellites is free. To access it is free. There's lots of others you pay for, and it's super cool and different, but you can get pictures of, like this, a cloudless day in this part of Edinburgh. November the 13th last year. I'm sure you remember the day without clouds. That's a problem. Actually, if you use synthetic aperture radar, get me with my knowledge, you can see through clouds. Anyway, that's a straightforward picture you can get now from Earth Observation Browser on the internet. And then if you overlay it and say, ooh, where's all the moisture? Same picture. Don't laugh, it's true. And finally, if you said, what's the vegetation doing? This is IR, near IR. It's showing patches of good quality vegetation because the vegetation reflects the IR frequencies. You can use this for all sorts of different things, detecting coastal erosion, detecting floods, detecting pollution. We did a whole thing around the Solway Firth where we could see the farm fields were drying out. So I'm just saying, come and speak to me. You've got some ideas, you want to access data. Let's talk. Thank you very much.
Right on time. Thank you very much, Ken. Do please catch up with Ken at the break. Find out how to make some cool games making space data. Okay. There's not much happens in the world of PC gaming that doesn't involve an NVIDIA chip. So it's a real honor to have NVIDIA's European Director of Development Relations here. Please welcome Mr. Phil Scott.
What an intro. Do you know what? I've worked with Colin for, 25 years or something when we work together. He gets younger, right? He gets younger. Doesn't look any different, really. So I took real inspiration from Tom earlier, and he said the word bollocks a few times. So I'm a big fan of the word bollocks, so I may use it a few more. So it's not supposed to look like that. It looks like I have the technical demons here. So it works. It works. Okay, so I'm going to give you a scenario, right? So we've got a short amount of time. And I do apologize. It might be a little bit technical. So I'll intersperse the technical bits with bollocks and apologies. So we're going to make a game.
right? It's called Super San Francisco Simulator. And I've just realized that's really fucking hard to say, right? So it seemed good when I wrote it. So anyway, we're making this game called Super San Francisco Simulator. And it's awesome, and we've pitched it, we've gotten money. You know, all the great people have told you how to rob everybody blind, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to make this game. And it looks shit now, honestly. That looks shit. It looked awesome when I did it. But what we've done is we've made this game, right? And we've gotten all the money. And it's awesome, right? You've got the team working on it, and they're really energized and all the rest of it. And actually, you know, somebody, at some point in time, somebody goes, you know, it'd be a really good idea if we QA'd this thing. Great idea. Okay. So they go to the outsource lab, right? Everybody's working in isolation. They're all doing their bits, and they all bring it together. And anyway, what happens? It goes off the QA lab, and everybody's like patting themselves on the back. Aren't we awesome, right? Everybody's done that. Aren't we all awesome? And it comes back, and it's 33 frames a second, and it's an arcade game, and everybody basically shits their pants. Okay. And that happens, right? So it's panic time, right? And the problem is, I've seen this many times, right? This really happens a lot. So what do we do, right? You know, we get lots of people coming to us, help us optimize our problem. That's a real thing that happens, right? And we're more than happy to help people optimize problems. So what we've done is we've been working on a bunch of technologies to actually, you know, do some optimization for you, I guess, right? So this is a problem, right? This is a 4K screen. There's 8 million point something million pixels on a 4K screen. That's a lot of very expensive pixels, right? And I do apologize. I know people have had a few drinkies, and I know there's a lot of numbers on the screen, and I do apologize for those. So I'll say just consider it a load of bollocks, but anyway, there are all these things, right? So rendering 8 million pixels on a modern game is actually really expensive. So you're not actually just rendering 8 million pixels, you're probably rendering 30 or 40 million pixels per frame. And it becomes a real problem. So what we've done is we've been working on a bunch of things to try to solve this, right? And there's this whole term called upscaling, right? So what are we doing, right? It's like, you know, upscaling is like a long word for kind of cheating, right? So what does that do? So what we're trying to do is we're trying to take this frame that is 33 frames a second, right? And what we're trying to do is we're trying to turn it into 80 frames a second, right? Now, we can't just go like, okay, well, we've drawn it little and we're going to make it big. And it would look very obvious that we're going to make it big if we just stretched all the pixels. But that's exactly what we're going to do. And nobody's going to notice because we're going to invent all of the pixels in between, right? Because inventing pixels is awesome because that's no work, right? It's great. So what we're going to do is we're going to render it little. This is 1440p. It's 3 point something million pixels. And we're going to convince the gamer that they're actually looking at 8 million pixels. It's awesome, right? And there's this magic thing in the middle, this voodoo in the middle called upscaler. And what we're actually going to do is we're going to do it, and what we're going to convince people is, instead of this frame that took, you know, something like 30 milliseconds to render, we're actually going to render it in 10 milliseconds, spend another couple of milliseconds on upscaling it, and then go much faster. Right? It seems really obvious to do. When we first came up with this idea, it actually was, to be honest, when we actually came up with the idea, it was like, that's never going to work. Nobody's ever going to believe it, right? But it actually is real magic, right? And the amount of game developers that have come to us and went, you know, I wasn't really a believer, but I am now. It is, you know, a real testament to it, like how clever some of the people that I actually work with do. I just stand on stage and say bollocks a lot. So what we're going to do is we're going to render the screen, and then what we're going to do is we're going to draw the UI afterwards, because everybody looks at the characters and the little thin lines and stuff like that. And for a point of reference, this is actually a picture of San Francisco. And to be honest, it's like there's two really important things. And this is a survival guide for anybody going to GDC. In the bottom right-hand corner is where you're supposed to be. That's the Moscone Center. In the bottom left-hand corner is a place called the Thirsty Bear. That's where you're going to be, right? Survival guide. Just make sure that somebody sees you in that place before you go to that place. Nobody will ever notice that you're missing. Anyway, what we've done is we've come up with two really best-in-class solutions. The first one, which you've probably heard of, is this thing called DLSS. There's a lot of money around at the minute where if you mention AI, people flock to you, right? Use DLSS, you will get AI in your game, right? I'm not talking about making little guys run around or anything like that. This is real neural network AI. And we actually we've got a massive supercomputer in our California office that literally continually crunches numbers on games to basically learn how to invent pixels. That's how it works. We basically learn to invent pixels based on all of the games that come before. Now, if you imagine that there's more than 150 games have shipped with DLSS now, I think that's testament to you're kind of building on the shoulders of giants. But the other thing is this thing called NIS. And this is a much cheaper solution. And the great thing with it is it works on everything, right? It works. You can take that code and you can make it work on a PlayStation. You can take that code, you can stick it on any platform you like. All the source code's there, everything's there. But what it does do is it's not quite the quality level of DLSS, but it also is much, much simpler to try out. So one of the reasons we did this is because we have an Unreal plugin. We just stick it in. It works. You can get both things with the Unreal plugin. We're working on the Unity plugin right now. But the other thing you can do is you can get the code off GitHub. Right? It's all there. It's MIT licensed. Just get it. But if you really want to try NIS and you want to be super smart and you want to go to the boss, hey, boss, look at this. I just made the game go twice as fast. Right? You can actually cheat. Right? And this is awesome. You can go to the desktop. You go to the control panel. If you've got an NVIDIA GPU, go to the control panel and you go into this little menu here. Right? And you actually try it out. And we'll actually do it in the driver. Now, I wouldn't recommend that you ship the game that way, but for a no-code test that takes you less than about 20 seconds to actually try, I think it's a really good way to try it. And you'll actually see the kind of benefits that you'll get by upscaling your image, and it's a pretty good quality. Now, there's a couple of tips that go with this. The first thing is you should probably add DLSS and NIS because NIS works on everything. But DLSS is really the gold standard. Now, the great thing with NIS is the pipeline kind of looks the same anyway. So if you try it out, use that as your pipe cleaner, right? That's one of the things. There's also a bunch of documentation that comes with it as well that gives you really good advice about how to present it to the user and what kind of language to use, because nobody really gives a damn what texture format you're using, right? Use plain English, right? Or use plain Scottish. If you want to be local. But when you've done it, one of the important things is get in touch with us, right? Tell us that you've done it. We're doing tons and tons of promotion, right? We've got 200 million GeForce gamers around the world. They're all desperate to find games with DLSS because it's a real selling point for games now. And if you look at most AAA games, they all have it now. And it's just something that I think would be, really beneficial to a lot of people. The same thing is for NIS, right? If you've got problems, get in touch. If you want to try it, you want to know more, get in touch. The simple thing is we're very approachable. Get in touch with us. We love to hear from you. We know there's tons of great stuff done in Scotland. But the one thing I've got to say is thanks for listening to all the bollocks that I've had to talk about for the last 10 minutes. So thanks very much.
9 minutes 57.
4 seconds. 4 seconds.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Phil. Okay, we will take a quick 15-minute break. We will come back at about 25 past for the raffle draw. Ooh. find out who wins the raffle prizes, and then we are hearing from a certain Mr. Rami Ismail. So see you back here about 25 past. Right, okay, we'll see if the technology works for us at least once this evening. Apologies for those watching online. I know we've had audio problems and everything. A lot of the speakers are with us in Dundee tomorrow and Glasgow on Thursday, so we'll hopefully do better with the online streaming tomorrow. However, we are going to do our first raffle draw. We've raised about £500 tonight, so thank you very much, everyone. That's great. It's going to a brilliant cause. We'll keep fundraising over the next couple of nights, so we should save. We should make enough to make a difference. In terms of the prizes that were kindly given out, let us go through. So we'll do the Steam codes first. So we'll see if this works. So first, let's do the Armour Games Steam Pack. I'm not sure any of us are going to be able to read this, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm sure it'll be fine. Cassie Cornish. Congratulations. Actually, I'll tell you what, I'm going to do an audio recording of this so I can get. So that's Cassie Cornish wins the Armour Games Steam Pack. Okay. Next up, we have the Yogscast Steam Pack. Frank Arnott. So Frank's up in Dundee, I know, so congratulations, Frank. Thank you for making an online donation. Okay, now we have the Focus Entertainment Pack. This is quite tense. Anna Mansi. Thank you, Anna. I know she was one of the first people to donate, so thank you very much, Anna. Next up, we have the Humble Games Pack. So this is ticket number 483. Someone in the house who's paid cash but got ticket 483. It could be Alex. Yeah. Okay. Okay. If it's Alex, he's won something. If not, if we end up with a spare thing, we'll add it to the prize for tomorrow. So that was Humble Games. Next up, we have the No More Robots prize. Ewan Craig, congratulations. And the final Steam Pack we have is from Modern Wolf. This takes longer each time. Anna Mansi. Anna, can we re-roll that one? Awesome. Oh, actually, no, that's true. Let's give that to Games 8. Yes, perfect. After all, you bought the tickets legitimately, so you've earned them. Okay, let's move on to the non-Steam packs. So first up, we have the Game Maker Studio Enterprise license, courtesy of Opera. Kyle Banks. Thank you, Kyle. Not all of the winners are speakers. This isn't fixed. Next, we have a physical copy of a signature edition game of your choice from Merge Games. Maurizio. Congratulations, Maurizio. I'm not sure Maurizio's here. That must be an online thing, but Maurizio runs Epic here in Edinburgh. So well done, Maurizio. And then we have sorry, that was the Merge Games one. Next, we have the Scottish Games Week VIP pass, courtesy of Mr. Brian Baglow and the Scottish Games Network. Stephen Cool, congratulations. Next up, we have the Zappity goodie bag with t-shirt, £50 Steam voucher, various other things, and an invitation to join their closed beta of their file storage platform. Ewan Crick again. Well done, Ewan. Lucky night. And then the final draw for tonight is the £50 Steam voucher, courtesy of Pocket-Sized Hands. Gary, if you win this, I'm re-rolling, okay? Jack Hardy. Congratulations, Jack. I should be able to get email addresses for everyone and get in touch with your prizes. If you don't hear from me in a couple of days, get in touch. And everyone that's entered tonight will also go into the draw on Thursday night in Glasgow for the Philips HDK monitor. Okay, that's the end of the raffle. It's time we get our final speaker on. He's flown all the way over from the Netherlands. He's a Dutch-Egyptian industry ambassador and independent games developer with over 20 titles developed across all platforms. He's developed the industry standard dopresskit.com, spoken eloquently and passionately at countless global forums, and advocated for game communities and independent game developers the world over. Please welcome Rami Ismail.
Well, that's an intro. I don't know how I'm going to live up to that. Let's see. Hi. Wow, it's really indeed very hard to see you all. Can we dim the lights a tiny bit? Is that a thing we can do? Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Hi. My name is Rami Ismail. As just introduced, I'm an independent developer and a traveler. I help independent developers do better at independent development if they want help. I mostly try and help people make money making games because most game developers are already pretty good at making games. I sort of didn't really know what to talk about here because I didn't really know who all of you are and what you do. So just really quickly, by show of hands, can I get sort of a feeling for what we have in the room? Like independent developers? A lot of you students? A few students? AAA? A few of you? What is everybody else doing? Composer? Cool. Cool. Video, also cool. Cool. So mostly creatives and a bunch of people selling stuff to creatives, I guess. That's cool. It's good. It's good. So I think, I've been listening to all the talks. All the talks were lovely. I have a few things I kind of wanted to yell about a little bit throughout the day. Some of those are Elden Ring, but I'm doing that on Twitter. Please don't check my Twitter. It's a mess today. there's a few things I just kind of want to talk about because I've been doing this consultancy thing over the past year and a half, and there's a few things that just keep coming up in these conversations. Since most of you are indie, I'm just going to spend, do I have a timer here? I'm going to spend a few minutes just yelling about some stuff about being an independent developer. Is that okay? And then after that, I think what I'll do is just open the floor to questions and just kind of like jam from there with all of you, okay? Cool. So, charge more money. Fuck's sake. Like, shall I tell you, I work with publishers, I work with indies. The one thing that is just incredibly demoralizing, trying to help independent developers make money, is that you will get a pitch that'll go something like this. We're a team of 5. We're working on this game. We've been working on this game for a year and a half. We need another year, and we need $20,000. No. No, here's the thing. If I'm a business person and I get your pitch and I run the numbers and I just take like a basic salary and I multiply it by the amount of people that are in your team and then multiply it by the amount of months that you have left, and that number is higher than the number you're asking, I'm not funding you. And a publisher ain't funding you because your business case is shit. And everybody thinks that what you sell to a publisher is a game. It's not. Publishers don't buy games. They buy business cases. They buy something that they can sell. The biggest lie that publishers ever told us was that they fund our games. They don't. The same way a supermarket doesn't grow an apple. They don't. They buy the apple, and they buy the right to sell that apple. You're a game developer. You sell the right to publish your game to a publisher, and then they make money. And then hopefully, if the deal is good, you make money. The thing that I think a lot of indies fail to understand, and a thing that will really just help you a lot, is you are selling a business case. The business case goes as follows. I'm going to sell to you, the publisher, the publishing rights of my game. In exchange, you're going to give me a big bag of money, and I'm going to spend part or all of that big bag of money on developing the game. Now, the publisher will ask for your budget, and you should have a budget. Should your budget be accurate? Hell no. Doesn't need to be. Just add 30% on top of everything. 50 if you really want to, as long as it's reasonable, right? Your development timeline. Are you going to put the exact development timeline? Hell no. You're kidding. Nobody actually finishes a game on time. Have you ever asked a programmer for an estimate for how long something's going to take? And you're going to base your business case on that? Don't do that. What you do is you take whatever you think is going to take and you add like 30 to 50% on top of that. That's what you sell. If you're done faster, great. Keep the rest of the money. Nobody says you have to spend all of it. That's just what they want to make you believe. That's why they ask for your budget. They ask for your budget because that will give them the lowest amount of money that they have to pay for it. They put a little margin on top of it just so you're safe, and now you're good. If I tell you I have a game, it takes 3 people to make, you're going to spend about a year and a half making that game. And it's a game about a bunch of astronauts on a spaceship backstabbing each other. It's about $150,000. That sounds quite reasonable. If I have the exact same pitch, but now it's Among Us, that's a $25 million pitch. Exact same fucking thing. So publishers ain't buying, they're not funding the game. They're buying the publishing right. The value of your game has nothing to do with how much it costs you to make it. That's not how it works. The value of your game is a percentage of how much the publisher is going to make with it. And most publishers are going to be aiming to earn about 3 times what they invest. So if you can make a convincing argument to a publisher or to whoever is the publisher, to me, that your game is going to make 3 times as much as I have to pay you for, why the fuck would I not invest in that? You're coming to me and go like, hey, this game, it looks, like by all means and measurements and by everything that we see, looks like it's going to make $2.5 million. Anyway, we need $250,000. You think I'm going to go like, well, not sure about that. No, of course not. I'm going to give you $250,000. That's your job. Now, the second part that people get wrong is because they think that what publishers are buying is games, they build 90% of the game before they talk to a publisher. Here's the only reason As an indie, you need a publisher. Because it costs money to make games. Because it's risky to spend that money yourself. So here's why you need a publisher. Because your risk goes to them. And now you get to make a game for a year and a half, 2 years, whatever it is. They pay for it. If the game is successful, you make more money. If the game is not successful, they lose money. That's why you have a publisher. Everything else is nice. The services they offer, marketing, production help. I'm not saying publishers are bad. I'm saying publishers are great. Publishers are great because that risk goes from you to them. The trick is the faster you can make that risk go from you to them, the better. So if you develop 90% of your game, that's actually not great. Most publishers wouldn't love that because A, the risk is pretty much like figured out. You know how the game is going to land. You kind of know what the market is. The risk is relatively low. So the value that they're going to have to offer for the game is going to be quite similar to the value that the game might actually make. Or you're going to severely undersell yourself, which is bad for you. So I say pitch as early as you can. And people go like, okay, so let's get a vertical slice. I say pitch before the vertical slice. Start pitching. If you can communicate to me with a prototype and some concept art, some mock renders, a good budget, a good team, that your game is going to work, why the fuck would you spend the time building the vertical slice on your own money? Have them pay for it. It's great. It really is that simple. Another thing, you want to know one really good way to make your pitch better? How many of you have like a really good producer on your team? Just like a good producer. Somebody who has shipped some good games. None of you? You want to know how to make your pitch better? Add $80,000 to $100,000 to your budget and hire a producer. This is now a better pitch than it was before. Because you're selling a business case. And the business case is, we think we can ship this game. And if you don't have a good producer that has shipped a game, that's a risk to me as a publisher. The $100,000 that it costs to have that to have that producer on board, that ain't a risk to me. The value of that $100,000 is way exceeded by the fact that I'm pretty sure the game will probably ship. Right? So a lot of people come at these budgets, come at these pitches, come at these conversations with the attitude of how can we get the number as low as possible? Why? Why? Get as much as possible, like bleed them dry. Seriously. It's their part. Their part of the bargain is to figure out what makes sense for them. That's not your problem. And I will tell you, every publisher I've talked to says that they would much rather take a pitch, discuss a pitch even, where the number is too high than too low. Because a number too high means that maybe you're a little arrogant. Maybe you're a little idealistic. Maybe you believe a bit more of the market than there actually is. I can work with that. I can negotiate that. But if you come in with like half the budget you need to actually ship the game, I don't trust your ability to make this video game anymore. So I'm done. Why would I invest in somebody who doesn't know how much it's going to cost to make the video game that they're promising me? So instead of getting the number down, get the number honest. The honest number is how much do you need to make this game, plus about 30% of margin, plus about 6 months of development. Why 6 months? Does anybody know why about 6 months? How long does it take for Steam to pay out the publisher? Several months, usually. How long does it take a publisher to pay out you? Month, but some of them pay out per quarter. That's 6 months. Your goal as a business, as a studio, is not to make a video game. Your goal as a business is to survive and make video games, in plural, more than one. So if your plan ends with like, and then we ship, they're fucked. Because you won't have money. You literally will not have money. There won't be money coming in for months. You're going to have to go to a bank and convince them to give you a loan to survive until you get the money from Steam. So why would you do that to yourself? The trick, the real trick about all of this is that whether it makes sense on the publisher side is not really, it's not your problem. Whether they pay you more than you think the game is worth, Not your problem. Let them do their due diligence. They're good at it. Trust them. Trust that they're good at their business. If your budget is too high, they won't just tell you. If you're far too high, then maybe look at why you ended up with that budget. Comparative analysis is a powerful tool. Figure out what kind of games made 70% of your budget. What kind of games made 130% of your budget. What kind of games made 300% of your budget. If you can look at a game, does anybody know the box slider number? Phenomenal thing to just know. There was an indie, Mike Boxlighter, and together with another indie called Jake, they come up with this idea that it was really hard to figure out how many units another person's game had sold. Because there's no external data on Steam about how many units a game has sold. But there's one piece of data that might give us an idea of how many units a game has sold. What is that number? Reviews. They found that there's a pretty strong correlation between the number of reviews and the number of sales. Now, we don't know whether those were on a discount or not, but the Boxlighter number started at 57 and is now down to like 40-something. For every review that's written, somewhere between 40 and 60 units of a game has been sold. Now, comparative analysis, really simple. Take your budget, take 70% of that. Now see how many reviews that would be after dividing it by the Boxlighter number. Take, let's say 50, right? So you take your budget, 70%, divided by 50. That's the amount of reviews you're looking for in a game. Find a game that is similar in any way, art style, genre, whatever it is, honestly, that has that amount of reviews. Not exactly, but like close. Look at that game and ask yourself very honestly, does your game fuck that game up? If your game is much better than that shit, okay, we're in business. Now let's do the same thing. 130% instead of 70%. Is your game competitive? Can your game stand next to that game comfortably? If it can, we stay in business. Now take the 300% number. Do the same thing. Does your game stand a chance to be that game? If yes, that's fair budget. That's it. That's how you figure out your budget. That's how you figure out what you ask a publisher. They will ask for a budget. You know how you make your budget? You work back from the number you just got. And then you fill in what you need to get to that number. You might say, is that fraud? No, that's just you figured out how much funding you're going to get, and now you're separating, you're splitting the money across your employees. That's how you pay salary. You figure out how much money you have, and then you figure out how you're going to spread it among your people. Right? Doesn't work the other way around. There's not some sort of objective salary standard that you have to keep to. In fact, publishers have no business to be involved in how you spend your money. As long as you ship the game at the end, I don't care whether you buy a fucking yacht. Buy a nice boat. I know what you're going to do with a boat, but like, you could. It doesn't matter. That's not their part. Developing the game is your part. Your deal with a publishing agreement is you will ship this video game. You're not even promising that the game is going to be good. You promise that you're going to try. It's up to the publisher to figure out whether they believe that it's going to be good. That's your job, to convince them. Now, I'm not saying lie, because that's going to get you in a lot of trouble. I'm saying be honest, but also stop thinking about it in the way of like, I'm selling a game, they're funding my game, I'm going to have to figure out what the salary is. No, you figure out where you're competitive, how much money your game is going to make, you take a percentage of that, that's what you're going to ask for, and then you work back on the budget. Like I said, sometimes your pitch gets better by going up with numbers. You don't have a good artist? Fine. Talk to a good artist. Find a good artist. Find somebody you really want to work with and ask them, hey, listen, I'm going to do a pitch. I'm not sure if I'm going to get it, but I think if you were on the deck, it would really help. If I get the money, would you work with me? If they say yes, put their photo on the deck as if they are on your team, because if you get funded, they will be on your team. You're not pitching the state of the game now. You're pitching the state of the game when you're done. Not now. I don't care about what your game looks like now. I care about what your game is going to be when it's done. You don't have to pitch where you are now. You don't have to tell me that it's not in a good state, or that this thing isn't working, or that thing isn't working. If the publisher has concerns about that, they will ask you. What you need to do is you need to make abundantly clear that at the end of this thing, this is going to work. And if the publisher has concerns, be honest. You don't have anything to hide. But that's their part of the deal, right? This is not an antagonistic relationship. Help each other out, talk to each other, be kind to each other, be nice to each other, but understand that at the heart of it, it's business. The heart of it is business. A lot of publishers will ask you ridiculous things for the sake of business. There's one publisher at the moment that likes to tell you that when you're getting pretty close to having a short form terms, that you can't talk to other publishers anymore. And they will not continue unless you sign that form. And then for 21 days, you're not allowed to talk to anybody else, which is shit for your negotiation position. You shouldn't sign that. But if they have a really good deal, you might sign that. That's just business. They're just doing business. So you should just do business. You getting the feeling that when you're talking to a publisher, you shouldn't talk to anybody else? You think the publisher stops talking to other games because they're talking to you? Hell no. Keep talking. In fact, you want to know my strategy for negotiation? I call it the backstop. You pitch to everybody. Pitch to everybody. Don't pick your favorite. Like, get out of here with your favorite publishers. You don't even know if they're interested yet. Pitch to every single publisher that might publish your game. Then you get a list back of people that might be interested. You talk to them. You take the best offer that you're going to get. That offer is your backstop. You do not touch it. You talk to them. You keep talking to them. Everybody else, you tell, well, we got a more competitive offer. You know, if you go up by about X or we change these terms, we could continue the conversation. If they go over the offer you like, now they're the backstop. And just keep going. Eventually, you got to stop. Like I've worked with teams that start at 700,000 and they ended up at like 8 million. And at some point, you just got to go, all right, that's enough. That's enough. We're just going to sign this one, right? But the reality is that indies are so good at undervaluing their work that sometimes even I am shocked, right? When I say like, oh no, this game is worth 3 times as much and it comes back like 10 times as much. It happens. It happens because the publisher is looking at how much they think they're going to earn. And they know their audience. They know how many people might buy their game. They know how many people they can reach. They know how much money your game can sell for. So you just go up. Just go like, whatever you're thinking. Probably 3 times as much is where you should start. Unless you're good at this, in which case, you know, multiplying it by 3 might end up too high. But like in general, 3 times as much is pretty good. Good. I just wanted to yell about that for a moment. Because I really like publishers. I think they're great. Moving all my risk to somebody else, I love them. Thank God for the publishers, right? But at the same time, I want to make sure that everybody understands what the deal is they're actually making. And what they're actually pitching. What are you pitching? Are you pitching a game or a business case? You're pitching a business case, and the game is what it revolves around. So yes, you have to sell your game, but ultimately it's the business case that decides whether they're going to sign it. You can bring them the best game of all time, but it's not going to sell a single unit. They're not going to fund it. Why would they fund that? It's not going to sell a single unit. They're not your friends. They're not your enemies. Same thing with the press. Same thing with anything. Everybody's doing business. Now, the people there might be your friends. I'm friends with lots of folks at publishers and friends with lots of folks at the press. I like to have a good reputation with them. I like to be kind. I like to be understanding. I like to be empathic. I like to make every deal a win-win. And they're just very good at shooting themselves in the foot and making it a loose win despite feeling like a win-win. And I just want you to win a little more. So just keep that in mind. Next time you do a negotiation, next time you want to pitch, here's what you do. Whether you want to pitch or not. When you're starting on your game, fucking pitch it. Just pitch it. Get a feeling for what the publishers think. Even if you don't want to publish. If you don't want to publish, just pitch it anyway. Because if all the publishers go like, that's probably something to consider about your game. If all of them go like, yeah, no, let's talk. You know, that's also good to know about your game. So even if you don't want to pitch, there's no reason not to pitch, really. And then if you do get into negotiations, if they do ask about a budget, just remember, when they say budget, what they really mean is, what is the price for your publishing rights? And then go from there. Okay? How much time do I have? Do I have time? Am I out? Am I out? I don't know if I'm out. Am I out of organization? Hello. Hi. Am I out of time? 5 more minutes. Okay. Q&A real fast. Anybody, any questions, anything? Doesn't have to be about this. Just anything at all. Did I scare people? I think I might have scared people. I see no questions whatsoever. Okay, go for it. What is my feeling about, okay, so pricing is nonsense, right? Inherently, it's nonsense because it's a digital product that we can inherently replicate. So really the price that is fair is the price that people will pay for it, right? That's just it. That's where it ends. Discounting is great because if you can make people feel like the number that they're paying for it is less than what they feel somehow is reasonable for this digital piece of code, then they'll buy it easier. And there'll be more conversation. I gave away 75,000 copies of Nuclear Throne for free at some point. And it was the best thing I ever did for the sales of that game. Because everybody was talking about the game now. It was a huge influx of community. There were tens of thousands of Twitch streamers across like a month. Like it did really, really well. So I'm all in favor of discounting. You know, if the game was bought by a publisher, I've already got my money. So if you think that will make you more money, then fucking let's go. Like, because if you make lots of money, I'm gonna start getting a better percentage, right? So, yeah, I'm good with that. Do whatever you want at that point. But yeah, if you're an independent setting your own prices, same thing kind of applies. Like pricing is kind of nonsense. So just kind of. My pricing strategy is just kind of say a number and see whether it sounds fair when you say it out loud. That's general. Like I wish I had a better strategy, but like I think Imre was saying earlier, like we don't know what the hell we're doing, so you just kind of go like, all right, $24.99. Oh, that's very much for this guy. What $19.99? We'll start at a pro tip. Whatever you end up at, add like a few percent so you can discount into the price you actually think the game is worth, right? Don't put out a $1 iOS game because then you cannot discount that game. Put out a $2 iOS game and then discount it 50% to $1. That looks fucking, that's a 50% discount. That's good shit, right? But yeah, no, I think discounts are great. Okay, one more question real quick. Anybody? There. I think the most important thing I learned consulting that I wish I had known back in the days is that it's far more okay to ask help than I thought back in the days. I was very nervous asking for help always, because I always felt like, you know, yeah, you have your reputation and you don't want to bother people and all that. But like this is kind of the same thing as with the publishers, right? Don't self-filter. Let other people filter. Right? Ask. Or ask if you need help, if you need support, if you need insight, if you need perspective. If somebody specific could give you advice for what you need, ask them and then let them say no. And if they say yes, that's even better. But it's the same thing with publishers. I talk to indies and they're like, oh, these are, you know, these, we'd love to work with this publisher, but they're never going to go for us. I'm like, did you ask? Like, no. How do you know they're not going to go for you? Right? It's the same thing with consulting. It's just like you see the difference one phone call can make with a lot of developers just in like looking at their budget, talking to somebody who has done indie games for 15 years. It's kind of like, I wish I could have called me 15 years in the future, because one of my first games that made money, I asked for 30 grand. That was from Cartoon Network. That's for 30 grand from Cartoon Network, because my game before that was $10,000. So I asked for 30 grand and they said, okay. And that's when I knew I fucked up. Because if a negotiation partner goes like, yeah, you know, that means that the number was really nice for them. So I had a friend who then did a game with Adult Swim, and they came to me and they said, Rami, how much did you ask? And I said 30,000, but they said, yes, you should ask for like double. I think they can afford it probably. So my friend went back and asked for 60, and they said, yeah, okay. And then a few years ago, the guy who did those negotiations left Adult Swim, and I called him. And I said, like, oh, listen, mate, in 2011, you signed our dinosaur. He's like, yeah, the dinosaur game. He signed a dinosaur game for like $30,000, and he just said, okay. And then a friend came to talk to us and said they were negotiating with you, and I said 60,000, and you said, okay, like how much were you funding? He's like, $250,000. Like, what? You didn't tell me. He's like, no, my job was to get the number low. He just made my job very easy. And we were happy with it, and we could absolutely ship that game with that money. We were so happy. We ran around the building high-fiving each other. We're like, fuck, we're rich. And it would have been very helpful to just talk to somebody who has done this before. The industry is really good at making lots of resources available, but one of the things that's really hard for people to talk about is business, because it drops into like competitiveness and like negotiation positions and stuff like that. And I understand why, and it's very fair. So like if you have a business question, call me. Just give me a call or call anybody else. Like it, you know, anybody who's done this for a while, like it's okay to ask for help. And then my hope is that now you take as much information from everybody as possible. And then when you're filthy rich for some reason, because you made whatever game you do, that you just pay it forward more than you took. So now just take. Be okay with taking. Just when you do it, give back more. And then we'll be fine. Okay? Cool. I think that's it for me. I think I'm out of time. Thank you so much. Do not find me on Twitter. It's a mess. But if you have any questions, email me info@ramiismail.com, or just find my name somewhere. If anybody has any questions that they were uncomfortable asking here or they want to talk about in private, I'm going to be around here somewhere, and have a great night.
That was perfect. Thank you very much, Rami. So sadly, that is all we have time for this evening. I hope everyone's enjoyed all the talks and the networking. I know I have. I know we've got a ton to reflect on, and there's even more to follow up on with a bunch of the publishers and Rami and everyone else that's come to visit. So I'm hoping to hear about lots of emails flying around tomorrow. If you want to see any more, a lot of the talks are going to be the same because it's the same speakers. However, we are in Dundee tomorrow. It is sold out if you don't already have a ticket. But we're then in Glasgow on Thursday night, and there is still tickets available there. If you want to come along then as well, you're very welcome. It's really not that far, so do come through. Please join me again in thanking all of our speakers. Please give them a big hand. Thank you. And can I also ask for a round of applause for the sponsors that made tonight happen? So that's Scottish Government's Tech System, In-Game, Outplay Entertainment, Hyperluminal Games, Pocket-Sized Hands, Sheridan's, Glitchers, Escape Technologies, Rivet Games, and Speech Graphics. Thank you so much. And one last round of applause for Ethan up on the front desk, and for Sean and Ruben for getting us in safely and checking everyone's food. Thank you, gents. We're about to get kicked out of here. If anyone, even if you didn't order food, wants to grab half a bagel, there's still spare food out in the garden. Feel free to grab half a bagel on your way out. Thank you all for coming along tonight. I hope we can do it again soon. Good night.